And a very good evening to you guys, and welcome to the Championship Review. I'm Carl, as usual host. And let's get onto this all these weekends results. Especially we look at some key games over this weekend, including Friday night's game between Ipswich against Sheffield United, as well as Bristol City going away to Sheffield Wednesday. Birmingham went to Stoke yesterday, and Norwich at home to Norwich yesterday, and also two unbeaten teams yesterday between Middlesbrough going away to Preston, and also with that, West Brom's game against Derby in the 125th year at the Hawthorns. So we'll talk about all the games, we'll talk about all the big talking points. Let's say good evening to both, to Michael and Annie. Good evening, gentlemen. How you guys doing?
Not doing too bad. How are you both getting on?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Annie's just going to be sitting here nice and smiling, going, third in the league. Perfect. Just perfect. What more could you ask for?
If anyone gets that reference, all props to them. But I wouldn't expect that you would. Any viewers
Let's just say go and watch the first 10 seconds of Annie's video, or even 5 seconds, to be honest. He gave me the ammunition to make that a little clip, let's make that like a quote or something. Just get a picture of Annie, a picture of a t-shirt with Annie's face on it, and just go perfect, just perfect. What more could you ask for? These days, you could probably get on a t-shirt. To be fair, if you know the right people. But I'm doing all right. Sorry, go on, Annie.
No, I was just saying you probably could get that on a t-shirt. Yeah,
you would actually, very easy.
Yeah, how are you doing anyway, Carl?
Yeah, not too bad. Other than it was a mixed day of results. I'll talk about Leeds tomorrow night with Doug of Rich Sports and Dan Turfmoor about it tomorrow. But overall, actually, the only thing that saved grace was bloody Hearts beating Rangers for the first time since 2012 at Ibrox, and that was only the best thing for me yesterday after that calamity from Leeds in the last few minutes of the game. So I'll talk more about that tomorrow. But I'm
tells me this guy below will be quite happy about that as well, given who Rangers head coach is.
Well, that's a fair point. Yeah.
Never say I told you so, but I told you so.
I know. You should tell that. Well, you should see the Rangers fans yesterday. Even after the game, they were well. That's another story. And I think Reece
aren't they like 12th or something? 10th. What was Rangers? Come on, they can't do that.
They've drawn 4 and lost 1.
That's stupid. That's ridiculous.
I'll just put this up.
Yeah.
There you go. That picture of Reece said it all.
He said it all because he was right about what he said yesterday. Especially we were going, he could see Hearts winning yesterday, and we were right. And to quite honestly, no wonder how Rangers have become a shit show at the moment under Russell Martin. And I'm surprised the club have not sacked him as of today. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I suppose it depends. They seem really determined to stick to their plan of keeping hold of him. But the longer they do that, the more they risk alienating the fan base, don't they? So, yeah, it'll be a very interesting time to see how long Russell Martin actually lasts. My bet is that he'd be astonished if he lasts anywhere close to the end of 2025, or he shouldn't anyway. But yeah, less said about that, the better, I suppose.
I give him at least this month. I think he'll be gone by then.
Do you think he'll be gone before the next international break in October?
Yeah, I can see him gone by the next international break. I wouldn't be surprised. I think the fans will have the power, and they always have done. But I think because of the new ownership, because there's no fan advisor on the boss, but I think they will still have the power to get rid of Martin. They will find a way.
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
There you go. Well done for sitting here and listening to us talk about Rangers for a couple of minutes.
I know. That's a rare, and
it could be worse. You could be considering reappointing Chris Wilder, but there you go.
Well, yeah. Let's get on to that.
Not so intentional segue there.
Yeah, let's get on with Friday night's game actually, and what a calamitous performance from Sheffield United, losing 5-0 away at Ipswich. Jada Philogene scored a hat trick. George Hurst and Jack Clark were the other two scorers. And we have to talk about the big breaking news that happened today, that Ruben Sellers has been sacked by Sheffield United after, losing 6 games on the North competition since he joined the club back in early this summer after Chris Wilder got the sack. And gentlemen, I don't know who wants to start first, but we knew this was coming. But to wait 2 days after Friday night. It should have been dealt with straight away.
Okay, I'll just start by saying, if anyone hasn't seen that defending for the 5th goal,
Yeah.
God, that tells a story in itself. I mean, it is. We've seen bad defending, and bad defending can be sort of niche and can be sort of hard to point out. A toddler could have said this was bad defending. Like,
Yeah.
just no sort of commitment. That's maybe a bit harsh. No sort of. It looked like there was no commitment to go and get the ball. Jack Clark is literally just like walking. Is a walking pace, and he's just gone through, and he's put it past Michael Cooper, who had a howler for the third.
Yeah, it was George Hurst you're on about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was horrendous.
That was horrendous. 2 mistakes in that one for Cooper. They're just so bad, aren't they? They're so easy to play against. And I watched it on opening day where every time we went forward, it looked like we were going to score. They're so easy to cut through the middle. It feels like there's no midfield. City Peck, who's the deepest midfielder, the most defensive midfielder. Compare that to what they had last season in Vinny Souza. Obviously, that's a fall off, but they haven't addressed it in the transfer market. And the closest replacement they've got is Gibril Samara, who's just not played. So they're so easy to play against. And I think the confusion in the transfer window as well, do you remember when they started that window with the AI model and they signed like a couple of Bulgarians and everyone went, okay, this is either going to be...
A couple of players for the Bulgarian league. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in last January, they also signed Jefferson Kakares, I think it was his name, and he's now gone to Scotland. And they also signed a Nigerian guy whose name completely evades me. But they've signed a bunch of random nobody to the championship that we've never heard of, and they've just not made an impact. They've not played, and at the end of the window, they've gone, actually, let's sign Danny Ings and Ben Mee and Jaffa Tanganga and Ben Godfrey, and let's just sign championship know-hows who are ready to go. I think that just about describes what a mess it's been. The summer has been a complete mess. It's been turmoil. It's probably not helped Ruben Sellers, but he's not helped himself. I mean, if I'd said to you, Ruben Sellers, when he got sacked by Hull, when he gets his next job, what would you expect the Ruben Sellers team to look like? Expect it to be solid defensively, expect it to be really hard to score against, and you expect it to be pretty sort of efficient going forward. It won't create too many chances, but it'll be pretty decent. They'll have some good...
You think about like the performance that he was when his whole manager was against Sheffield United when they beat them 3-0. Exactly my point.
Exactly.
They caused Sunderland's first home defeat last season as well. Won away at the Stadium of Light. I know Carl won't want to remember this, but in the end, they obviously got promoted. But they came back from 3-1 down, didn't they, against Leeds? Now, albeit Melier was a hand in that, but they still took 7 points off of Leeds, Sunderland, and Sheffield United. So, yeah, sorry, Andy, go on. Yeah, but you are right. You'd expect them to be a lot more solid than this.
And you'd expect a good counter-attacking team. Why I thought it was a good appointment was we saw a counter-attacking team with Wilder, didn't we, at Sheffield United last season. Pretty decent defensively, and then fine margins. Again, it's an argument for luck and stuff like that. But I thought they're pretty decent. I thought they were pretty decent on the fine margins. I thought Ruben Sellers would be better at that than Chris Wilder. He's completely changed what a Ruben Sellers team looks like. They try to play out the back every time. They get caught out in possession. I mean, when you've got Reece Norrington Davies playing centre back, trying to pass out the back, split defence, full backs up the pitch. You've got Callum O'Hare and Gus Harmer as your 2 midfielders. They haven't got a defensive bone in their body. What do you expect? You don't. There's no balance. I mean, yeah. I think Sellers has been hard done by, but he's not helped himself either. They just, you can't. He's not coached a team to play like that in his career so far and had any success.
No.
Reading was a little bit more expansive because they had, again, a decent team in League One. Hull was solid defensively, very good defensively, and build on that. This has been a complete contrast to what Sellers has been previously, and that might be because the owners would have asked him to play like that. But I just don't think he's helped himself. And transfer window's been a mess as well.
Here's one for you, right? So I looked at their XG stats, right? And obviously I know you're probably sick of me going on about XG, but I think it's quite telling, in particular from Sheffield United's away games, right? So am I right in thinking they've only scored one goal, which was against Bristol City on the opening day? They haven't scored since in the league anyway. And then if you want to include the cup, they've scored twice in 6 games. Bearing in mind, one of which was a stunning solo effort from Gustavo Hamer against Birmingham in the cup. So, to be fair, their XG against Bristol City on the opening day was a 2.35. So you thought, okay, there's enough attacking impetus there for them to work with. Since then, in their 1-0 loss at Swansea, 0.4. Then against Millwall at home, okay, at home you'd expect a bit more, 1.2, but Millwall's was 1.33. That Millwall had more better XG going forward than Sheffield United did at Bramall Lane. Then 0.44 at Middlesbrough and 0.42 at Ipswich. Now, Ipswich's XG obviously was 2.56, which is 5 times the amount of Sheffield United. Now, I think I agree with what Annie said about the defending. I mean, the Jack Clark goal obviously kind of summed it up. It was almost a comedy horror show of how not to defend. That was, and to be fair, from what I did hear, I missed the first 20 minutes of the game, but from what I heard, everyone was saying that was Sheffield United's best spell.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to know in their best spell, how threatening did they actually look? And I think that obviously losing Vinny Souza was massive. I think Ahmed Hodzic is another one. Obviously they sold him in the summer. But even in so, they still signed the likes of Jaffa Tanganga, who should be one of the better centre-backs at championship level. You've still got Gustavo Hamer in there. You've got Sidney Peck. You've got Tyrese Campbell. I was going to say Keith Moore, but obviously he's gone to Wrexham, hasn't he? Tom Cannon, who I've still stand by, should be a good forward at championship level as well. So there's still enough quality there to be able to create better than what they are. And defensively, they look an absolute cataclysmic horror show. I think the players folded massively in the second half against Ipswich, and I think that was I felt sorry for Sheffield United fans, who, especially the ones who had gone down from Sheffield to East Anglia on a Friday night to go and watch that. And to me, I think the players, not just Sellers, Sellers has not helped himself, as Annie has rightly said, but I think the players have got a hell of a lot to answer for here. And I think when you look at Sheffield United squad, here's one for you, and I'm not just saying this as a Sunderland fan, but I think it's a genuinely interesting question. Someone said to you two after the Sheffield United Sunderland playoff final, coming out of that game, by mid-September, one team would be on 0 points and one would be on 7 by mid-September. You would think it would be Sunderland on 0 points because the Premier League's a lot harder, wouldn't you? If it was one of the two. But no, Sheffield United are on 0 points after 5 games as a parachute payment team. Okay, a year 2 parachute payment team, so they won't have as much scope as Ipswich, Leicester or Southampton, but still, it should be better than 0 points after 5 games. So and obviously Sellers is sacking, I think, especially the manner of the defeat on Friday night was just not good enough for them. And I think it just says a lot that actually, put it this way, this is kind of funny, but it's also kind of humiliating from a Sheffield United point of view. There was a Sheffield Wednesday fan, I think I sent it in our group chat, said something like, despite our horrendous on-pitch situation and everything that's going on with our chairman or whatever it was, we can always count on the Blades to make us feel that little bit better about ourselves. And I'm thinking, guys, this is like embarrassing, like for you lot. Like your rivals could be on the brink of, on the brink of going down the road of not having a club anymore, or at the very least going with some severe administrational problems. And yet you've got more resources, and you are the second worst. You are worse than Sheffield Wednesday, which just says something. Even Sheffield Wednesday in their current state, and as I said, I like Sheffield Wednesday a lot, but it's obviously not a good situation in Sheffield. This current Sheffield Wednesday are doing better than you, which is just humiliating from a Sheffield United point of view. But but we got to. And to be fair, this is another thing. I said this to Carl before we came on air. When the Ipswich version of Jack Clark is scoring past you and waltzing through your defenders like there's not there, that's when you know something's wrong. And and as you guys know, I'm a huge Jack Clark fan. I think he's an excellent player at championship level, but his confidence has been shot at Ipswich. So for him to waltz through you like that is just ridiculous. And yeah, I think, but Danny is right as well. Like I said, I thought the Sheffield United would maybe, because I thought the first half against Bristol City when I watched it, I thought, well, actually Sheffield United have played some pretty good stuff here. They've just been undone twice, and it's like, so it almost feels like once you score past them once, they crumble. They've got literally no sort of, I guess, street smart nastiness about them.
Yeah.
And I'll give them this under Wilder. I still stand by a lot of what I said about Wilder. I think a lot of their performances were fortunate last season. If you want a good example of it, see the home win over Sunderland or the away win at Bristol City. They were extremely fortunate in both games to come away with a win. But I'll give Wilder this, as much as I really hate the guy, but I'll give him this. They were not easy. They were not rollover. They were not pushovers, and I'll give him that. And I think obviously we'll talk about Wilder. Looks like he's on the verge of coming back, which I think kind of says a lot about the state of Sheffield United when they wanted to move away from him in the summer, and then let's sit down and just over 2 months later they go, please come back. Please. And don't get me wrong, I think Wilder will steal them away from trouble. Don't get me wrong, I think he will get them enough results to do that, but that's how bad it's got. And how silly must the Sheffield United board look right now as well?
They look really silly, especially when they when they took over before last Christmas, they gave him a new contract. I think it was a 3-year contract extension, and then all of a sudden they missed out. They missed out on the automatic promotion, and then the loss in that 95th minute winner from Tommy Watson, in the playoff final, and then they stay radio side for a bit who they're gonna if they're gonna get rid of him or not. Then they decided to sack him, and in the summer, they're probably about a couple of days after we know that Ruben says came in. And like I said, they've not done much in the transfer window. Yes, they got got Tanganga from Millwall for £10 million and so forth. But it's like, where was the investment of the squad that needed strengthening? Especially got Norrington Davis, who looks like a shell of himself, and Cooper in goal as well, who are, to let Jack Katz go through his legs. It just said it all completely of how this mess has been. And I look at what Salah said on Friday, and he said that comes with reality. He wasn't worried about his future by the time. Said for us, I think there's only one way to keep working hard till the very last second at the club. I always try to give 100%. If you finish the job, you don't get the result where you wanted, at least you're clear in your principles, your values, and the way to do things. And he said about the Sheffield owners that before he got the start today, they have been supporting me till today. I didn't speak with them after the game. These things happen in football. People will need to make decisions, and I need to make decisions with my lineup.
It's just a car crash, isn't it? And there's at the risk of repeating myself, it is a car crash. To be fair, and I think probably the biggest issue they've got now, I think they had Matos playing alongside Peck in midfielder,
Which was his debut, which is his first game, and yeah.
So I don't know how similar he is in positional sense to Vinny Souza, let alone the quality of it. But I do think there's a massive Vinny Souza shaped hole in that team where the midfield got passed by so easily. And again, like I said before, when you look at the squad, and I mentioned that the squad's good enough to do better than it is, right? So I'll just go through some of the players here. Michael Cooper, Harrison Burrows, Japhet Tanganga. You could arguably put Ben Godfrey at championship level in there, even though I know he did really poorly at Ipswich last season. But bear in mind, that is the Premier League. Sidney Peck, Andre Brooks, Callum O'Hare, Louis Barry, Tom Cannon. And then on the bench, Tyrese Campbell, Chong, they signed from Luton, Gustavo Hamer, Ben Mee, Soriki. And then on top of that, I think there was and then on top of that, you've got, is it Ogbenny? I believe did they sign him on loan from Ipswich?
Yeah.
So, obviously it's one thing having individuals when you need to coach them together into a cohesive team, but there's enough there, to not be bottom of the league with 0 points. So goodness knows what on earth is going to be happening there. But look, Sellers has obviously paid for it with his job, and it looks like Wilder is obviously going to be coming back in. Now, for me, I think that, I've got my reservations about Wilder, obviously. If I take out my feelings towards the guy, I think he is a limited manager. But at the same time, I mean, how many points are they off the... I know this is sad to ask after 5 games. When we look at it, 8 points. So hang on. Nope, that was after the game on Friday. Bear with me a minute. So there's still 9 points off the playoffs, and there's still 41 games to play. Good run of form turns that over. So there is still a possibility there for them to finish in the playoffs. And I think something that, and you guys know the great, I've forgotten his surname, but it's Ollie off Sheffield United Way, and I've heard him say this quite a few times, where this is their last year as a parachute payment team here. They were. If remember, we said this across the start of the season that Sheffield United find themselves in a similar position to what Leeds were last season, where it's the last year of your parachute money, and if you don't go up, Carl won't mind me saying this, he said to me last season, if Leeds don't go up next year, it's going to look totally different because we don't have the parachute payments anymore. Now but Leeds had a stronger base and better assets that were able to and a better foundation to go off, I suppose, than what Sheffield United currently have. So I do fear for Sheffield United if they don't at least finish in the playoffs this season, despite their horrendous start, because I stand by that squad should still be good enough to, if cohesively and competently managed, to get into that position. But yeah, just quickly on the game before we talk about the Sellers Wilder thing, we've got to mention it from Ipswich's point of view. That obviously, okay, Sheffield United did roll over and it was probably the best time to play them. You still have to go out and do the job though. And a certain Jaden Philogene, we've got to, it was, what I've said all along, that you look at some of the options that Ipswich have got, they should be among the best of this division by no questionable margin. Like, George Hurst, who I've said I've not been compared to Liam Delap, obviously is a downgrade, but at the same time, he's got a few goals at championship level for Ipswich now. Obviously, Marcelino Nunes they've signed from Norwich. Jaden Philogene they've got Jack Clark, Sammy Smodics. There's Chuba Akpom as well. In addition to that, Jacob Greaves, Darrell O'Shea, Leif Davis. I think is it Ben Johnson they've got at
Ben
right
Johnson,
back?
Yeah,
I thought that was the case. So
Ben Johnson right back as well. Yeah.
I think Ben Johnson's been replaced, hasn't he, by don't know how long. I think.
You're right.
They didn't really rate Ben Johnson that much.
Yeah. So and then even like lesser known players like Jack Taylor, or you could say Cedric Keepray, they've got an abundance of options at this level. So, but I think it's good for them. Obviously, the longer it goes on without a win, the more pressure. The more I think that Kieran McKenna, there would have been a bit of pressure built on him. Not too much of it, because I think a lot of Ipswich fans would remember the double promotion he did for them and how that promotion, the money from the Premier League, has allowed them to assemble what should be a championship cheat code of a team, basically. But no, very, very good. And obviously for Philogene, what a player. At championship level, he's just outstanding. So yeah, really good for them to get a win. They just need to make sure that they kick on from it now.
Yeah, hopefully we'll kick on, especially Kieran McKenna. I would say before the game on Friday was a little bit under pressure, especially the slow start they've had, as well. But to thump a very pointless Sheffield United, it just shows, two of the teams that was relegated from the Premier League, to beat them in like that, it just beat Sheffield United, the two former Premier League teams, because Sheffield United have not, going to the last season, with not having a parachute payment this year. So for that matter, I think shows you who had the dominant, the good effect completely. And like Etienne Lemmer did say before the season, he thought Southampton would be trouble. Turns out it's Sheffield United, which
that's one
we never expected that something like that would happen. I thought maybe a bit of a mixed start, but not as compared to this. I think Southampton, we'll talk about Southampton later on in the show, but yeah, it's just surprising how the Blade sees how the ownership there have really screwed it up, and especially from when you give Ronaldo a free contract, and then 3 weeks after the playoff final, you sack him, and then you brought in Sellers, and you didn't do much of the transfer. And I'm just going to look again at the transfer window again of the last 2 windows. Just give me a second here.
I'll tell you, while you're saying that, Chris Wilder must be laughing his way to the bank, though, when you think about it. He's got sacked, got a huge payoff, and then he comes back into the job anyway.
He did have a dig. He did give a dig when he was on the Sky Sports EFL coverage. He did give Sheffield United a bit of a dig. I think it was when they were playing against Middlesbrough, and I remember it quite well. He was not sitting on the fence with Sheffield United.
Well, if that's the case, that shows how desperate Sheffield United really must be. If someone that has publicly slammed them on TV, like for millions of people to see, and then you ended up going back to him. But there you go.
Yeah. So seeing here right now, so since this January year, the side Tom Cannon, Jeffrey Cartes, who's now gone to Dunfermline, this in the summer, Christian Nwaka Chuku from one of the Bulgaria clubs, Pedev, and then in loan they signed Berberton Diaz, Hamza Chowdhury, Harry Clark, and Rob Holding in that January transfer window, last season. And then this summer, they've Danny Ings joined on a free deal. Tatanga on from Millwall, Chong, Matos from Chelsea, Matt McGuinness from Luton Town, and Ben Mee, who's on a free as well. Nils Strom from Malmo. Yeah, and even one Nigerian Ukaki from one of the Bulgarian clubs, and Mihal Podolov from September Sofia, and then look on the loan. They're side Tyler Binden, who's from Nottingham Forest on loan, Louis Barry, Samare from Braga, Godfrey Bogene. It just shows that this left things so late in the transfer window before the season start, and when you lose to Annie would say losing to 4-1 against Bristol at home, it just shows you there was a lack of investment, the lack of signings there that needed to freshen up the squad.
Lack of a plan as well.
I was going to say they clearly panicked, didn't they? They had that AI recruitment strategy at the start, and then they lost a couple of games, and then they went, "It's not working." And then, as I mentioned, Ben Mee, Danny Ings, don't know where they fall on the AI, innovative strategy.
Yeah.
And then Tanganga, Godfrey, Ogbene. These are good players, very good players, and a very good players for a year 2 parachute team, but just shows that they clearly panicked, and maybe realised early on, that this might actually not be working with Salas. Changing the manager isn't going to change what happened in the summer transfer recruitment wise, but is Wilder is Wilder better fit with this squad at the moment? I suppose we'll find out. Proof's in the pudding, but probably I'd say. But yeah, this first 6 games of their season has just been a culmination of what's happened over the summer. I don't think it was a bad. I'm going to quote Jamie Carragher here when he said about Nuno Santo when he got sacked from not from Forest, from Tottenham. It wasn't a bad sacking. It was a bad hire, and honestly, I just don't look at this squad right now, and I'm not seeing any sort of level of balance, any level of obviously individual qualities. They're brilliant, they're great.
You obviously got to shape them into a team, haven't you?
Yeah, it just doesn't sort of fit. It's just there's no molding and there's no fitting, and it just didn't work.
You know, another thing as well, when Annie was asking about how Ben Mee and Danny Ings fit in the AI sort of project, maybe they would argue that they did, because maybe they typed and looked at AI on or just typed to like Grok on Twitter or AI on Google and went, who has championship experience is available for free? And they put Ben Mee, Danny Ings, sorted. So there you go. That's maybe there. So it depends on your version of AI. It depends what you mean by that project we've heard.
Pretty much. So yeah, even though if I do go back to Wilder, this feels like Liz Taylor and Richard Burton all over again. How many times they got married and stuff.
What was Reese's version of it yesterday? He said 50 Shades of Wilder.
That's it. Yeah,
it's bad because I don't understand those references in the slightest.
Have you heard of 50 Shades of Grey?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, just say 50 Shades of Wilder. But yeah, you don't want to know much more.
You don't want to know exactly. We just
let's not get into. Let's not get into the intricacies of that.
Kind of figured. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just read you Sheffield United's 3 of their next 4 games. So this is huge for them. Charlton Athletic at Bramall Lane next Saturday. Straight away, monumentally huge game. After that, a trip to Oxford. Then obviously they've got Southampton at Bramall Lane after that. We'll get onto that later on with them. And then they go to Hull City after that. That's their fixtures till the next international break. That right there is a catalyst for you to get a couple of wins if you're competent enough. Will they? Time will tell.
Time will tell, indeed, guys. Indeed. Let's go to another team that needs a reality check, and that is Wrexham. They lost 3-1.
I did mention they need a reality check for the
I know. They do need a reality check, Wrexham. There's been questions about Theo Parkinson. Is he going to be there? By the end of the season. After, I think you're looking at the result yesterday. They lost to QP at home 3-1, and I don't know what to say. I think we did say at the start of the season preview, we did say we question about his managerial record in the Championship. With Hull, Bolton as well. You just worry about of even the signs that made big signings, right? That doesn't make you're going to be inferior to try to to do well to win promotion again to Premier League. I just don't see it happening, and I think QPR just rocked their boat very much well after Cody scored an own goal, which Anthony will be bloody happy with.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just sorry, you go,
Oh,
Michael.
go on, Annie, go on. I'll win.
I was going to say, I think Wrexham were in a bit of a difficult position going into this summer because you look at the squad before the window, the one that got them promoted out of League One. There's a lot of experience in there, a lot of Championship experience in there. That was a while ago. There's that Championship experience, and I probably looked at the quality and went, it's not up to it. There's a few really good players in there. Okonkwo,
Upgraded, didn't it? If you want to succeed at this level.
Cleworth, Sam Smith, Matty James, who I still love Matty James. So there are probably a few players in there who kind of went, yeah, okay, fine. But overall, it probably needed a bit of a refresh. Did it need as much of a refresh as £30 million worth of new players? Maybe not. And if you just have to look at their squad, right? They've got about 15 strikers. In no world do you need that many strikers. Like, I'm trying to name them now. Kiefer Moore, Sam Smith, Ryan Hardy,
Nathan Broadhead?
Jay Rodriguez.
Jack Marriott.
No, he's gone. Marriott's gone.
Marriott did go, yeah. I forgot
Yeah, he did go somewhere in League 1 or 2.
Reading.
He went to Reading, yeah.
Reading, okay.
Nathan Broadhead, I guess, yeah, kind of.
Well, he can be anyway, yeah.
Well, no, he will play as a striker in that system, no, surely. That's a lot. That's quality strikers as well. Obviously not a bad thing to have, but that probably just gives you a reflection of the balance of the team. What you'd expect with Parkinson is similar to Sellers, a team that's solid defensively, team that's hard to break down, especially at the racecourse. They'll be direct, they'll be up and at them, and they'll just be really awkward and horrible to play against. They've been so easy to just cut through regularly, and you look at their centre-back options, Callum Doyle, Connor Cody, Dom Hyam, Max Cleworth. It's good quality in there. But it's just, I don't know. Honestly, I haven't got a clue why it's not working. QPR could have scored 2 more goals yesterday. They could have scored 5 goals. They missed a couple of really big chances, Rangers. Wrexham did miss a couple of big chances as well, but it's just that lack of, I don't know, consistency. The defensive solidity is seemingly gone from what has made them so good over these past 4 years. Wrexham has been their defensive solidity. Every single league they've been really hard to break down defensively, and they've been one of the best sides in the league defensively. They just have lost that, and I don't know if it's the complete overhaul of a squad and a complete change, but it's just, I don't know, something's just a little bit off.
They played 3 at the back yesterday with Cleworth, Cody, and Doyle in that back 3. Longman and James McLean were the wing backs pretty much. They were playing the 3-5-1-1 formation, and I just look at the formation thinking, that's not good. And that's going to has a lot of weaknesses in that back 3 if you're not covering enough. When the opposition's on attack, and it just proved how QPR just broke down, especially with the 3rd goal from scored by Burrell. I'm just like, how did they leave that a big gap to concede that 3rd goal? I just do not know. It was baffling the way how they were when they were out of possession.
Do you know another thing as well? When I was looking through the championship games they've had so far this season, they've let in 10 goals in 5 games. They kept a clean sheet in Millwall. That's impressive, to be fair. Keeping Millwall out, keeping a clean sheet. But I think they conceded twice to Southampton, so you go, okay, Southampton, yeah, 1 parachute team, fair enough. Let in 3 against West Brom, and then this is probably the kicker. They blew a 2-0 lead against Sheffield Wednesday at home, which is that's pretty bad. Then they've let in 3 to QPR. So the one good thing you can say from them is that Kiefer Moore at least looks to be a signing that will deliver you goals. So we'll wait and see. And
for God's sake, man. And come on, man. Seriously? Why does always one pack with you turn so... Actually, this is not a surprise.
I was going to say, to be fair, this isn't an Ant thing, though. Have you seen the meme, I think it is, that where it was like the British version, 1 pint. I'll just have a pint. That's 3. I had a picture of 3 pints. I'll have a couple of pints, which turns into 6 pints. I'll have a few pints, which turns into about 10 pints. So
Yeah.
yeah, that to be fair to Ant, that is not an exclusive thing to him. So Connor Cody own goal. What was it? I hope Connor Cody's feeling the same. The prick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
What a legendary goal.
we
But
know
yeah,
we knew you say you're gonna code to that, and I would have thought in the back of it thinking, what if the 1 pint would turn into at least many pints?
well, what he should do is like Ant Bingo, where he goes like, "I'm never drinking again." Oh, cough a tin pot. Oh, Connor Cody, I hate him. Like, literally do a bingo card of Ant and Anthony Howard, and just go, right. What do you expect from him? There you go. Let's see how many times he does that bingo card.
Yeah.
That would be quite amusing. And he gets to find out when he goes to uni. So we'll still see what happens with that one. I hope they stick that documentary. Joe, being serious, right? I've still got, like I said before, and I've still got my. I think Phil Parkinson does deserve credit for getting Wrexham to where they are, because you can say, oh, well, it's easy when you got the money. But again, like I always say, if that's the case, would Luton Town have got relegated as a year 1 parachute team? No. So there's no guarantees with money with anything. For me, you still got to go out and win the promotions. You've got to go back to back to back, which is very rare. Back to back is rare, let alone a triple promotion on the spin. The problem Wrexham have got now, though, is that, again, I said this at the start of the season, they're going to be up against, well, okay, Sheffield United are crap at the minute, but they're up against 3 year 1 parachute teams. Sheffield United, in theory, have much more resources than they do, having been in the Premier League. There's other clubs such as Norwich, Coventry, Bristol City to a lesser degree, Middlesbrough as well. There's a lot of other clubs in there that will be that have high expectations from a financial sort of perspective. So they're not although Wrexham obviously have a lot of sponsorship and a lot of interest because of their owners, and they've obviously done well to go up 3 times in a row. They're not the biggest fish now. Whereas they definitely would have been in the National League, probably would have been in League Two, and arguably would have been at least one of the biggest fish, if not second biggest behind Birmingham in League One, in terms of what revenue they get and everything else. So for me, they have to adjust to the Championship, and I think this is why I think when there were some Wrexham fans, not all of them, because I think there were some sensible ones, but some of them were getting a bit carried away from me, going, "Oh, we'll go up, we'll just go a quadruple promotion. It's fine." It's not as straightforward as that. Not as straightforward as that whatsoever. For me, I've said before that I think Wrexham, a solid first season for them is around mid-table for their first season in the Championship. In whether it's next season or the year down the line, I think it's fair to expect them to maybe mount a promotion challenge. And who knows, if they get a really good managerial appointment, you don't know. But like you said, when you look, if you can gel some of that squad into a cohesive team, though, like I said, Kiefer Moore, Ryan Hardy, Nathan Broadhead, Lewis O'Brien. I know Ant doesn't like him, but Connor Cody for Wrexham should be decent.
Josh Windass.
Josh Windass, Callum Doyle as well. There's another
Ben
one.
Sheaf.
Ben Sheaf, yeah, we've got to sign him on deadline day, I think it was.
Yeah.
So there's some real quality within that team there. I just wonder whether this team too big for Phil Parkinson, if you know what I mean. As the team evolved beyond Phil Parkinson? That's the best way I could.
Yeah, it's a question with that, because I know the Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney have a right in Wrexham, and I think the next 4 games, they got Norwich City away, home to Derby, away to Leicester on the 30th of September, the game before
Connor Cody Derby, get in,
and then the 3rd of October before the international break, it gets Birmingham City at home. I think with that's going to be the biggest point now of how much points can Wrexham get over the next 4 games. That's going to be the huge question now. And I think with the ownership being in the country, in the UK right now, I think there's going to be questions of what do they need to decide on, if they need to look at the replacement for Phil Parkinson if results don't improve by the next international break.
So you think in the next 4 games they've got the Connor Cody Derby, and then they've got the Hollywood Derby with Birmingham.
Yeah.
Fascinating stuff. But you are right there. I think I'd be surprised. I don't think Phil Parkinson will last until the end of the calendar year. And I've said before that if Wrexham want to get the Premier League, they need better. He's done, and I think in some ways, the time that might have been the best time to part ways would have been the summer, because you can go, Parkinson can leave on a high, and he can say, right, thank you very much for what you've done. We are forever indebted to you for this, but we want to go in a different direction, and one that will, and get someone who will take us, at least have a chance of taking us up to the Premier League. But we've got to mention for QPR, though, again, very, very, very solid win for them. Obviously no way winning the Championship is easy. So I think that it's well, unless you're Bristol City scoring 7 goals in Sheffield, I suppose. But either way, like in general with QPR, it's a really good win. And actually, it's good to see Richard Corney, who I believe they signed from Wickham. Good to see him starting to make the step up at Championship level for them.
That finish for his
Oh yeah, that goal was fantastic. Yeah,
brilliant.
Oh yeah, it was a brilliant finish. No doubt about that as well.
So as much as we talk about Wrexham, we have to credit QPR for this as well, of course.
Yeah, Kone looks. Yeah, I do agree. I think Kone looks like a good player for QPR, and I think he's going to be looked at by a couple. If he keeps doing well this season after what he did at Wickham last season, I wouldn't be surprised one or two small Premier League clubs look at him, or somewhere in the high tier Championship clubs will be looking at him.
Wouldn't be surprised if the parachute team looks at him at some point. At least.
Yeah, I do. And you know what? And I think Ant may have a good point. I could see something like that if these with Lee Charlotte in MLS to come to Wrexham.
Haven't Charlotte won like 9 games in a row or something?
Yeah.
So he's not leaving anytime soon. He wouldn't get sacked anyway.
Especially we got Wilfried Zaha on loan as well at the
just putting it out there. Chris Wilder goes back to Sheffield United. Ruben Sellers goes to Wrexham.
That's not flashy enough, is it? For Wrexham?
No. They want a big name. They want at least a big name, and maybe D Smith maybe fit that mold. We don't know, but it could be one of them.
Well, one we'll find out. The one thing you can certainly not fault Wrexham. They want to be ambitious, don't they? So yeah, I'll be very intrigued to see who they get if Parky does go.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think QPR have looked like they're getting a bit of a run of form now, back-to-back wins for the first time this season. So, it's probably good for Julian Stefan because he was a bit under pressure, especially before the international break. They lost 7-1 to Coventry. But before the international break, sorry. And back-to-back wins, which they needed, especially, they had a slow start. But like I said, Kone is, coming in quite well. I don't know, Roman Burrell, I think he looks like he's going to be another good player for QPR for coming from the youth system as well. So I think, QPR have always been a good round club when it comes to getting the players well. So.
No, I agree there. I think, like I said, it's the best way to respond to a 7-1 absolute demolition humiliation. So no, I think it's very good for them, important for them to get 2 wins on the spin. And we're at the point in the season where obviously it's early doors, but 2 wins can shoot you up from like 21st to like 6th. So, that's how open the Championship tends to be, especially, or any league tends to be at the start. So yeah, well, see how Julian Stefan continues.
Go have yourself another beer, and you don't need to ask us permission, right? And especially, are you supposed to be at school tomorrow as well?
If anyone from Ant's place of employment are watching this, just ignore the fact that he's getting absolutely hammered on a Sunday night.
Yeah,
and you might want to avoid him next Saturday between the hours of like 11 a.m. and around like 5 p.m. considering Leicester City play Coventry City.
So annoyed. I'm not in uni, but that's really annoying.
You sneakily wanting to go in the home end and just sit next to Ant.
Yeah, you do.
Just abuse Coventry City.
I do not. I do not have anything against Coventry, unlike Ant.
No, well, I was going to say, is it Kesley Palmer still there? Ex-Bristol City lad.
Casey Palmer, no.
Casey Palmer. Why did I say Kesley?
And he's at Hull. Yeah.
Oh, of course he is. I forgot about that.
Anyway, if he was still there, then could you just give me a little bit more reason to dislike Coventry?
Well, that's the point I was trying to get at. You could have gone there and given him abuse just for that.
But no. All joking aside, Casey Palmer is all right. He's just antagonized us when he scored here last season, and then did this. I mean, it was fair enough. We were giving him stick, but yeah, that did so well with me, to be honest.
But let's just say next Saturday is going to be quite tasty at the King Power Stadium. I know for Leicester, it's not quite playing Nottingham Forest. Basically, he described Leicester playing Coventry as how I feel about Sunderland playing Middlesbrough, for example. Where it's a derby, but
the way he goes on about Coventry, you wouldn't think so. It's like
you wouldn't, would you? I think basically it's like his slag fest is basically slagging off fest is basically Coventry, Forest, Coventry, Forest, Coventry.
You see, he's gone into a period now where he's in denial up until kickoff on Saturday, and then after Leicester win 3-0, he's going to be like, always hated Coventry. There's
Oh,
always
Yeah,
yeah. And then
yeah.
if Coventry somehow end up winning, he goes, "Oh, I don't care. It's not Forest anyway." It's like it's a win-win situation for him, isn't it?
Yeah, very much it is. It is.
Not gonna lie, I'll be keen to see his reaction if Coventry did manage to get a win at the King Power.
Is that okay? It's at the King
Yeah, it's
Power.
at Leicester, yeah.
Actually,
there was a win apiece last time they played each other. I think both home teams won. So
I remember it was the first game of the season, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's just not fair.
Because Coventry took the lead as well.
Yeah, they did. They actually played quite well up until that point. But yeah, I'm saying I hate them, but I despise Forest.
Yeah, I know to see that.
Fair enough. Yeah, like I said, it's kind of it's a rivalry thing, but this is not the main one, is it?
No.
So yeah.
What's the main one? Forest.
Well, I would assume so.
Yeah, Forest is the main one
assume
because
it
of
is,
the
yeah.
close location between them two. So
Maybe
Is
Forest view Leicester the same way, because I'd imagine the main one for Forest would be Derby County. But
My Midlands knowledge is shocking.
Annie, don't worry. I'll put you to shame on how shocking it is.
listen, I was the only one that could need the Midlands, so I do know my resources. Yeah, so
but don't worry, my lack of knowledge about the Midlands will make Annie look like, I don't know, Wilbert Einstein in comparison. It's fine.
the distance,
Championship.
it's only 31 miles actually between Nottingham and Leicester.
I think we probably better get on, by the way. We've been like 47 minutes, and I think we've only mentioned two games?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's speed it up a little bit.
Yeah, just a bit. So back to Coventry and Leicester, everything.
Okay, I forgot his first. Geography is closer, but yeah. Okay,
fair enough then.
Fair enough. Right, let's move on to one of the other games yesterday in the London derby between Charlton and Millwall. Millwall got the equaliser through Reece by Ganga Williams. He came off the bench to equalise within the last 2 minutes before the end of the game after to draw a 1-1 against 10-man Charlton. Sonny Carey scored in the 40th minute with his first goal for the club, but Kane Ramsey was sent off for a second yellow card as well. Gentlemen, was this a fair draw, or do you think Charlton should have finished the game off?
Typical derby game. Brilliant. A lot of but both teams quite direct. Both teams quite physical, intense, as you'd expect. I think there was one corner at one point where it was Jake Cooper, who is the tallest man in the Northern Hemisphere, versus Lloyd Jones, who is the second tallest man in the Northern Hemisphere. So it was like a battle of the giants at set pieces. It was a great watch. It was a bit attritional at times, but it's Nathan Jones in a derby game. So what do you expect? If Charlton were going to score, it was probably going to be a set piece. And yeah, the red card, you'd argue, probably changed the game. But it's 15 minutes to go. Charlton, I'd say, also didn't help themselves too much after going down to 10. But yeah, I'd say a good point for Millwall in the end. I don't think they played very well. But in the end, it's a decent point for them. But Charlton, they've not beaten Millwall in donkey's years, so that's a real missed opportunity. And if Kane Ramsey just doesn't, I don't know, it's easy to say in hindsight, just doesn't get a second yellow, they probably win that game.
Yeah, very much so.
And I will point out, to be fair though, I think, is that the first time Millwall have dropped points away from home this season? I'm pretty sure it is.
Yes.
Yeah, so you've got to. So if they can sort their home form out, then we've said, well, everyone keeps saying they're a dark horse to the point where they're probably not a dark horse anymore because everyone keeps saying they're a dark horse. So if they sort that out, though, you wouldn't be surprised to see Millwall really challenging and pushing for the playoffs. But in the end, it was a good point for Millwall in the circumstances.
You'd expected that to be the other way around, wouldn't you? You'd expect them to struggle away from home and then be really good at the Den.
Yeah, because the Den's usually meant to be this sort of reputation about being a horrible, nasty, in a good way for Millwall, a horrible, nasty place to go to. And yeah, maybe I wonder what he'd be thinking, Alex Hill, going, well, lost to bloody Wrexham at home.
But the good thing is they're probably happy because they still got the unbeaten record against Charlton that goes stretched back to 29 years. So I think the pool will be happy with that. Actually,
so are we saying Millwall 1, Charlton 3 in the return fixture then?
Well, with derby games in a league season, we'll talk about Southampton Pompey later as well. If you're the team if you're the away team in the first leg, and you draw, but then you've got the home game to look forward to later in the season, I think you'd probably take that and look at the home
Oh
game
yeah,
as an
Yeah.
opportunity to go and win. No matter where, even if you're first and they're 24th, and you go away from home in a derby game, and an
derby
intense
games are
derby
different,
game
aren't they?
like this, if we were playing Rovers and they were 24th, honestly, a point away from home, well, point away, it's
Yeah,
honestly not the worst thing. And then you've got the home game to look forward to, where you can make it not hostile and nasty. So yeah, I'd say Millwall. It just feels like Millwall have some sort of psychological edge over Charlton. No matter how good Charlton are, they could be in the Champions League and they'd they still just somehow manage to screw it up against Millwall.
yeah.
And
But you know, to be fair though, it felt like kind of to a lesser degree, it was like us when we were playing Coventry all the time in the Championship, where it kept on being draw the first game, lose the second game, draw the first game, lose the second game. That was literally the case, even last season up until the playoffs. Because as you guys know, I didn't want Sunderland to get Coventry because like we never bloody beat them. So, but then obviously, as I'm sure to Mr. Marty Sexy Foxes can attest, he was absolutely not delighted whatsoever. But the point stands. Like, and we've got to mention for Millwall, what is it, 7 points away from home? Bearing in
Yeah.
mind that included trips to Norwich and okay, Sheffield United obviously haven't started well, but at the time Millwall went there, we didn't know they were going to be this bad. So you've got to mention that to them. It's really handy. Like I said, if they just sort their home form out, they'll be more than fine and challenging up there for the playoffs. And from Charlton's point of view, at least it's another point on the board, isn't it? Because I believe they lost to QPR. I think was it
Yeah.
last time
They
out.
did. Yeah.
Well, to respond to get something is, and I still maintain I think the Valley will be a hard place for opposition teams to go to, especially with the way Nathan Jones sets them up.
I'd say that game so far, when Leicester went to Valley, is our hardest game of the season so far. Like I'd have no idea how we got 3 points there. It's like I know we've drawn games and lost games away from home this season, but in terms of performance-wise, Charlton away was probably the team that's performed the best against us. They just could not find the back of the net.
Well, that's it though, and it's the way the promoted team, isn't it? So that's the kind of that's kind of what you expect from a team that has ended up just coming up. So yeah, Charlton away is obviously a very and to be fair, the way we did well, maybe not so much Wrexham at the minute, but it should be the case with a lot of the promoted teams. So, but yeah, should we move on to the next fixture?
Yeah, we should move on. We should go to your boys. And you got the draw against Oxford yesterday, 2-2. But like I said, you were down with 10 men with Aaron Ramsey being sent off to the 24th minute. Did you expect to come away with a draw after being down to 10 men?
Yes, because there's a bit more experience in this team now of sort of than a few years ago of sort of been there, kind of done it sort of thing. And as much as Oxford were good and they deserved a point, I think there was enough quality even with 10 men to feel confident we could get something. It's like it's one of those games in the context of it playing 70 minutes with 10 men. I think it's a decent point. You take the point and move on, but I don't know how, and I don't know what you guys have thought, but I don't know how any Leicester fans are trying to say that wasn't a red card. To me, it was as clear a red
It
card as
was
you're ever
clear.
going
It
to
was
see.
clear as a daylight with that one. Yeah.
It's like I like the signing of Ramsey, but you know when you can tell a player hasn't played football for a while, he's been out injured, and even before that, even before he got sent off, there was a tackle that he put in about I think it was 10 minutes into the game, and you think, oh, just calm down a little bit.
Because
But
it looked very rusty in the first couple of minutes. It looked very rusty, did it?
yeah, I thought so. But again, he to be expected. He hasn't played football in any serious first team football in a while. So it's disappointing and that he got sent off the way that he did. It was a bit naive, but you're gonna have moments like this, particularly when you're
Yeah,
trying to
of
build a
course.
young team like we are.
Can I just point out as well? I want to mention Leicester's second goal because that was brilliantly worked.
Yeah.
The pass and movement in the build up to it and the finish from Ricardo Pereira, I think it was. He finished the chance for the second goal. That just shows the quality that you're going to have against someone like Oxford. But again, being down to 10 men away from home, it's still. I think in the end, I don't know if Andrew will disagree with this, but I still think in the end, in the circumstances, it is a good point, particularly when you're behind twice, weren't you?
Yeah, and you know what's frustrating? As much as I want to credit Oxford and I don't want to sort of talk down to them, both of the goals they scored were from our own doing. Like the first one, still
Yeah,
Archer,
particularly the first one. Yeah.
Yeah.
and then the second one being really critical. We gave away a corner from absolutely nothing. So it's like, when you're like, we haven't actually played well yet once this season, and I think we're third in the league.
Fourth in the league with 10 points, but still 3 points off top. So like you're still well in the picture, aren't you?
Yeah, and it's like, now that the transfer window's shut, Harry Winks is still here, Ricardo Pereira is still here, Fatawu's still here, and unfortunately, like, Bilal did go, but when a player wants to go and it's like as talented as he is, when a player wants to go, you just got to let them go. It's not good to keep them
Yeah.
if their heart's not in it. So I feel really good, really confident, really happy going forward. The one thing I will say is Harry Winks has to be starting now. Now that he's not going anywhere and now all the transfer talks died down, game after game he's come off the bench and he's been our best player. It's like he now needs to start. Get Oliver Skip out of the team, out. I don't care where he goes as long as it's not starting. Because I think he actually is an option off the bench. I don't think he's a bad player, but it's like Harry Winks is a level above him.
Above him, so you would swap him. You would mainly swap him for Skip for Skip. Just to Skip to come off the bench and try to be the impact sub or defend if you get against a lead at some point. A lead when you're leading.
Yeah, or my thing is, my ideal midfield two would be Jordan James and Harry Winks, but I think that Cifuentes really likes the physicality of Samari.
Well, either way, I was going to make a really bad dad joke pun there, saying you want to skip the possibility of starting Skip, but yeah, I've said it now and it's horrendous. But here's one for you. So, and what's your thoughts? So, I've got to ask you this while you're on here. Obviously, we talk about how much you dislike Coventry and how much you go on about Coventry, particularly in our group chat, which is quite funny. But what are your feelings genuinely on next Saturday's game, next Saturday lunchtime?
It's a game that I feel a lot more confident with it being at home. I'm glad this is happening now, not when we played Birmingham, when we had all of the transfer talk and stuff. You can start to see Marty's ideas coming across and stuff. So
Yeah.
it's one of those that if we turn up, we should win. But Coventry aren't any mugs. So it's one that I'd say it's probably a 60-40 game.
Yeah, like slightly in your favour, but not a landslide by any means.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to be fair, so if there happens to be any Coventry fans watching, there you go. That's the most complimentary Ant we'll get about Coventry for ages.
Mate, there's not many
for
of
the
them.
rest
I doubt
for the
there'll be
rest
any.
of your life. Only one time.
Mate, there's not many Cov fans. I doubt many will be watching.
There we go. There's the dig that we all know and love.
Yeah, very much.
You know what I'm saying about Oliver Skip? I don't know if you saw my tweet earlier about him. He's like, he's not the fastest, or the strongest, or the most intelligent, or the best passer of a football, or able to defend, or able to control the game, or play at any tempo.
So you're saying that the time when he's at the best is when he comes off the pitch?
I didn't say it. I'm not disagreeing.
You're like, oh no, you
No, I
said
didn't
it.
But you already said it.
I'm implying it. He's going, I'm implying it. Michael just was the one who said it.
Exactly.
But you're not saying no, so that's as good as you saying it. Sorry, Annie. Basically, we're talking about how much Ant doesn't like Oliver Skip.
The thing is, I don't think he's a horrendous player, but this is going to sound really weird, and hear me out. He's valued and measured off the fact he's a £22 million signing, and it's like when you've got players like Harry Winks, who was a £6 million signing, making him look average every game. Same as Bilal El Kanu, same as Wilfred Ndidi last year. And it's like his standards, he gets measured at £22 million. And when you look at some of the players that we've signed for around that value down the years of James Maddison, Yuri Tielemans, etc., I think he's held to those standards because he was brought for similar money as those.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, it's like, well, we spent £10 million on Jack Rodwell, £13 million on Didier and Dong. So, like, yeah. Spending money doesn't always equate to quality, unfortunately, does it?
The one thing I will say is, for all his flaws, he does try hard.
That's the best thing he's going to get with a compliment.
Yeah.
Well, he can't pass, he can't tackle, he can't shoot, he can't score, he can't defend, he can't do anything, but he's a good trier. He works hard.
Yeah, about right, to be fair.
Yeah. Fair
Look,
enough.
I'll tell you what, if he scores next week, my opinion of him will change massively.
Well, we're saying, so how about this one? So say if Oliver Skip scores the winner against Coventry next week, we need to get Ant to get like the new Leicester shirt with the word Skip and whatever Skip's number is on the back of it.
Yeah.
You know what?
I
couldn't even
heart
tell
Skip.
you.
I love Skip.
I couldn't even tell you what his number is.
Hold the phone. Let me try it. Let's see.
It's going to be something like 25, just to rob him of fact, but we paid 25 million for him, innit?
Let's have a look. Oliver Skip. Did you? Oh no, hang on. That's because I'm looking at Oxford's team. He's number 22.
No, 22. Yeah.
22 million quid. You said you paid for him as well. That's quite ironic.
He's just doing it to take the piss, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, just a bit. No, honestly, go and check it. It's on the BBC Match Report. You can see for yourself.
Yeah, I've seen it.
In
Yeah,
fact, just so Ant can see that I am not taking the piss.
he's right.
Oh my God, that's mad.
There you go. See, told you.
He's right indeed. Right, let's move on to a couple more games since Annie's having his dinner at this time, which is a bit late, but
Totally expose the guy. It's fine.
It's very inconvenient, but I'm hungry, so
fair point. That's why you always
I
eat
know.
late. That's typical you. So
I feed myself.
I mean, come on, Carl. I mean, what, are you saying you expect Annie to starve just for the sake of doing this show?
do you know what? I can't comment on that one because that used to be me when I was working on the night shift. So I can't comment on that one now since I used to do that. Even though the good news is because I will be starting a new job in a couple of weeks, sooner than later. At least I won't have to work on the night shifts anymore because it will all be day shifts. So as a support worker, so that's the best thing for me. So I know weekends. So I know working on weekends. So yeah.
Fair enough then. Fair enough.
All right, move on to Deepdale after Middlesbrough got a late draw against Preston 2-2. I said Lewis Dobbins scored his first goal of the season as well. But I have to say it was a good end-to-end stuff both these teams yesterday, and a good 100% unbeaten start for Rob Edwards to continue.
He looked fantastic, didn't he?
Mm.
Rob, did you see
Handsome Rob's at it again.
Sorry, we're not going to get into my love for Rob Edwards again today, but genuinely, like in a serious note, did you see how he called out the Borough fans for booing?
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
absolute fantastic. That, by the way, like,
yeah, what was it that were booing Morgan Whittaker? I think it was.
Yeah, it's like you're top of the league, you're doing fantastically, and you're booing one of your own players coming on. It's like I know I booed Connor Cody for years, but
did you? Never noticed.
But it's like you're Middlesbrough. No one's expecting you to be top of the league. Everyone was like,
Middlesbrough. No one's expecting.
Like, I'm not wrong.
Oh, that came out of absolutely nowhere. That was brilliant.
He's got a good point though. Actually, I can't argue with that.
If you're looking at it from the perspective that Borough's a non-parachute team, yeah, it's a bit similar to Sunderland last year. Like a non-parachute team that finished poorly at the end of the previous season. No one expected them to be top after a few games, did they? So, yeah. Sorry, Anne. Go on. I know I interrupted you there.
No, but what you're saying is bang on, and it's also, you know, when Rob Edwards came in, like there was a lot of, oh, is he actually, like, how's he going to get on? He struggled big time last year at Luton, and it's like, could this job be too big for him coming in from following on from Carrick? It's like he started fantastically. The last thing they need is negativity of booing one of their players when they're doing as well as they are.
Yeah, well, it's another thing as well. Like, funny because I feel quite smug about this because I said in the summer when Middlesbrough got Rob Edwards, I actually think a lot of people were fixating far too much on the way it ended at Luton when they disregarded the 2 seasons prior to that. Now, yes, last season was shit. It was awful for a year one parachute team, but you got Luton Town to the Premier League.
And nearly stayed up.
Yeah, and I know that Forest had the points deduction and that skewed it a little bit, but they still by far came the closest to trying to get the 17th out of the promoted sides. Bearing in mind, Burnley and Sheffield United would have had more spending power than them, considering that Luton, a lot of the money Luton got for being in the Prem, where did that go? Their new stadium. So they haven't really had as much money as what people think they would have done. So I think a lot of people underestimate the job that Rob Edwards has done in Forest Green. Even I know it's in League Two, but Forest Green still, that's
Then the
incredible.
National League.
Yeah, no, but when Rob Edwards was there, I mean, like
Yeah,
getting them to League One against all odds, and look where they are now, of course. And then look at the main one that he did at Luton, and then obviously even lasted 10 games at Watford, which is more than some of the other managers have gone and lasted there. So there's that to consider. But I said in the summer, Rob Edwards will not prove to be a bad appointment, and although I did say that about Ruben Sellers, so I've got one right, one horrendously wrong. So 50% 50% success rate there. But I actually genuinely think, good choice of drink, Annie, by the way. But yeah, no, with Middlesbrough, I was going to say with Pepsi Max there. With Middlesbrough, I mean, come on, 13 points after the first 5 games. Like, again, I think they had like Norwich away in that run, Millwall away. Okay, Sheffield United again have started poorly, but a year 2 parachute team playing them at home as well. And then obviously they've gone away to Preston, who had beaten Leicester and Ipswich at Deepdale and came from behind twice to get a point. Like, I don't think there will be many of their fans complain, to be fair, but
No.
Rob Edwards could not have started any better. And the character, by the way, when you went 2-1 down very late on, in what was the 87th minute, I think it was, to come back in stoppage time, and okay, it was one of the jammiest and scruffiest goals I've ever seen, but still, it's a goal that gets you a point away from home against Preston. And I believe Middlesbrough's record away at Preston's horrendous anyway.
Very horrendous, yeah.
They tend to lose there more times than not. So, yeah, I think it's it would have been quite funny because I think Alan Brown, obviously he was on loan there from Sunderland, but ex-Preston lad. It would have been quite funny if he'd been credited with the goal. But yeah, do you know what? I think Middlesbrough are finally starting to show a bit of something about them, really, considering when you look at the squad that they had. When you look at the squad that they have got. So, yeah, I think you've got to look at it in a very positive way for Middlesbrough. And for Preston, okay, disappointing to drop 2 points late on. But think of it this way. You've played 2 year 1 parachute teams, and you've played Middlesbrough, who are top of the league, and you've got 7 points. You can't. I think if you ask Preston fans before they played Leicester, I think it was Leicester they played first out of them 3 at home. You go, come on, you take that without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
Question for you then, like, at what point did Preston shit the bed and start dropping down this table then?
What, do you mean to go to their typical mid-table mediocre? Do you mean to be towards the mid-table bracket they usually get, or just scraping, avoiding relegation like last year?
I think they'll be more comfortable than last year, but I swear, was it a couple of years ago, they started really well like this, didn't they?
It was under Ryan Lowe, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, under Ryan Lowe,
and then
yeah. But
They
I
didn't
think
concede any goals for like 10 games, the first 10 games or something.
and the goals conceded, the goals difference was in the minus part in that when they were in the top half.
I'm sure they drew out of 10, like the first 10 games. I mean, they drew like 8 of them 0-0,
Yeah.
which is nuts.
That was a couple of years ago, yeah.
Yeah,
because they played Leicester as like the 11th game or something of the season, and they came to King Power unbeaten.
And then they nearly got, like I said, the one against us at Deepdale. And then when it came to Ellen Road, they nearly got a draw before we got the late penalty. As I remember, because Preston was so bloody hard to break down that.
Do you guys think, just out of interest, do you guys think that maybe that the squad is shaping more in Paul Heckenbottom's image and what he likes his teams to play? Because I thought that last season, a lot of the why they were down there was because that was a squad that was very accustomed to the way Ryan Lowe set them up, and then Paul Heckenbottom comes in, who's, if you go by his spell at Sheffield United, his style is very different to what Ryan Lowe wants from his teams. So do you think maybe that they're starting to get more used to the way Paul Heckenbottom wants them to play?
Well, I agree, because especially how they bought Daniel Iverson, Thierry Small, other fire from and Michael Smith. I think it's starting to click in quite well. And the players that are loaned in from Lewis Dobbin from Aston Villa on loan, and Alfie Devine and Harrison Armstrong and Dan Jepson from Bournemouth. He's looked like he got the players that he wanted, because the players that went this summer, Ryan Ledson, Iman Rees, Freddie Woodman, Ched Evans. So I think that the style is moving. The style is fitting in the players that he's got now.
And I think it's good to get the results they're getting, because they lost Emil Rees as well. I know you might have already just mentioned him there, but Emil Rees, their top goal scorer last season. And I know there's obviously, and you can attest to how he's got on at Bristol City so far, but there's obviously been debate about his style of playing, whether about his hold-up play and general play. But generally, as Annie has now found out, he scores goals at championship level. So I love how Annie's just drinking and going, Not my
Yeah.
problem there. Not my... What's it, the Kermit the Frog meme? Not my business. Exactly, yeah. But no, I think you've got to credit Headcock and Bottom so far, to be fair. And I think it says a lot that they're disappointed not to have caused Middlesbrough's first league defeat.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, very much so as well. And is your favourite team, Coventry, had to get
Here
a
we
late
go.
equaliser against Norwich after Hadrat scored in the 96th minute, after the new boy
This is where
for...
Ant's... this is where Ant's going to conveniently disappear now, probably.
Probably, yeah.
I'll tell you what, I watched the game and stuff. I don't know, and I know it took till like the 98th minute or whatever it was. I don't know how Coventry didn't win that game.
Yeah, they
They seemed
battered
to have
Norwich, didn't
chance
they?
Yeah.
after chance after chance. And it's like the goal came in the most scrappy way. It's like one of those, if you're Norwich, you're probably thinking,
It was Harry Darling who messed up there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But you're probably thinking, like, we've been so lucky to get through to the whatever minute it was, to then give it away in that manner.
Yeah.
It's one of those that probably both sets of fans feel frustrated with.
Here's one for you, right? Because I don't know if Carl's got this on in front of him. But for Ant and for Annie in particular, do you know the XG stats for both teams from this game?
Wasn't it like 4.25 or something for Cov?
Well, see if
It
you can
was
guess it. Oh, hello, mate. One of my
4.02
dogs
for
just wanted to join in the combo
Coventry,
as well.
and for Nottingham Forest it is 0.15.
Yeah, 4.02. Yeah, it's Carl said 4.02 for Coventry, 0.15 for Norwich. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, from watching the EFL highlights, like Coventry had at least, I think, 2 sitters that they missed. They had one effort that hit the woodwork. They had obviously Harry Darling, I think, scored an own goal in the first few minutes. Obviously, was disallowed.
It was disallowed, and it was disallowed. And compared to looking at, they had 28 shots, Coventry, and they had 4 on target.
Yeah, they battered them, didn't they?
And
I think
Norwich had 4 and they had 1 shot on target.
Yeah, so I think that if you look at it, right, from Coventry obviously will be relieved because it keeps their unbeaten start going, doesn't it? So, but yeah, I mean, Jesus Christ. To be fair though, when we talk about bogey teams before, Norwich I think have been Coventry's bogey team for quite some time now. So I think they they've either lost. They definitely lost at home to them last season.
They lost the last 3 games. They lost the last 3 games.
There you go. Right,
Yeah.
So straight away that's something. But yeah, I think you've got to credit them for the fact that Frank Lampard, and the criticism of Coventry has always been that they've started shit and started really, really slowly. But now they've started very, very solidly. I think. Obviously they've drawn the last 2 games against Oxford and against Norwich, but it's steady. It's a very steady start, I think, for Lampard in a good way. I think it's a solid start, and I think they've obviously nothing's decided in September by any means. But the better you start, the more you stay in the picture, you stay in the mix for the playoffs. And I think from Coventry, there would be an expectation for them to at least match the position of last season, especially when you look at how Leicester is the only one out of the parachute sides that have started adequately, I'd say. Obviously, look, Ipswich, just a few points off them. Southampton, just a few points off them. But still, like, they're above 3 of the parachute teams that which you would have snapped your hand off for at the start of the season. So, and for Norwich, in the grand scheme of things, I still think it's a very good point. It's just obviously when the goal comes against you in the 96th minute, after all, withstanding wave after wave after wave of attacks, it's obviously just sickening, isn't it? But we've got to mention, is it Chris Garden? I think it is, who scored.
Yeah, Mateus Chris Garden scored his first goal.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, look, it's a solid... I think the thing for Norwich, it's a bit similar to Millwall, actually. I think Norwich have lost all of their home games so far in the Championship this season. So then they lost at home to Millwall. They lost at home to... who was it? Middlesbrough. They've lost at home to them as well. Obviously got battered off Southampton in the Cup, but I think that's not high on their list of priorities for some reason. I wonder why. But yeah, away from home, they've also been quite solid as well. So it's just, again, like Millwall, sort your home form out. You've got every chance.
Yeah, I agree.
Can I just add quickly? Peak Liam Manning away performance. Absolute peak Liam Manning. Sit in, defend, be gutsy, be tough to break down, and then concede a late equaliser. Yep. Seen that story before.
Yeah.
No comment there then.
No.
Also, I think it was Ben Crescene who went off injured. I think he started and went off injured. Norwich have a couple of new injury problems. And Quistgarden, who got the goal, he went off with the injury. Apparently, he landed awkwardly. So it feels like Norwich have sort of landed somewhat on a stable team. So that to be disrupted would not be ideal now.
By the way, just to point out from Norwich's point of view, well done to them for keeping Josh Sargent. I know
I
obviously he
wish
didn't score.
Leeds took
I know
him.
he didn't score in this game.
I wish Leeds took him now
Yeah,
because
yeah, I bet you probably do. To be fair, but I was going to say, like, obviously that was the big story of the summer for Norwich, whether Sargent would actually stay. And it's weird because I remember thinking, obviously you have the controversy of selling Marcelino Nunes to Ipswich, which is a fascinating story in and of itself. But I wonder if Norwich fans would have taken the humiliation of selling to your rivals if it meant, we're bearing in mind a player who wasn't signing a new deal and wanted to leave and was in the last year of his contract, if it meant you kept one of if not the best striker in the league.
yeah, very
So,
much.
but keeping Sargent was huge for them. Now the big thing is just keeping him fit.
Especially will be for this year. Especially he wants to get into that World Cup into the US
Yeah,
squad for the
absolutely.
World Cup next
Because
year.
now that he's stayed now, I don't see him leaving until next summer at earliest. I think he'll stay in. I don't think he'll leave in January either,
Yeah, I
injured or
agree.
not.
I agree as well. Let's go to Bet 365 Stadium. Birmingham have lost now back-to-back games after
Oh.
losing 1-0 to Stoke on yesterday. For a looping header from Basson Lowell's.
That was a very good header.
Can I just have something to say here? Shock horror, Birmingham aren't pissing the league like their fans said, and they're just a bang average mid-table side. It's almost like we all could see it coming, like their fans were getting carried away, saying we're going to get back-to-back promotions. Back to reality, you've got a couple of half-decent players. You've spunked 15 million on Jay Stansfield, who's bang average, and fair play to Stoke, fully deserved it. And off you go back to Birmingham, and hopefully your bins will be emptied in the next couple of months.
Now, are you sure it's Coventry that Ant dislikes now? Because he's been very passionate anti-Birmingham City. Don't get me wrong. I do think that, like I said with Wrexham, I think Birmingham fans have been probably the bigger ones that needed a bit of a reality check. I do think they still stand by that. I think they will be challenging for playoffs, and you've also got to credit the fact Stoke have started really well, which I can't believe I'm saying that, by the way, for Stoke City, based on recent years. But yeah, it's a fantastic win for Stoke to respond from losing to West Brom, I think it was before the international break, and a fantastic looping header from Lowell. So it's incredible. But I mean, I want to quickly mention this, because obviously they signed one player from us, which is Patrick Roberts, on deadline day, who I think will be a solid signing for Birmingham. Obviously, I've got question marks over his end product on a regular enough basis, but yeah, I think. But to be fair, it's still earlier on in the season. But I do agree, to some degree. I'm just saying it in kinder terms than what Ant is. But I do think they realise that just because you got 111 points, whatever it was last season, you're not going to piss the league this year, basically.
And their manager's shite.
It's not bad compared to the managers that had in the past, like Rooney.
Yeah, but to be fair, I'd rather me be manager than Rooney, and even on the current amount that I've drunk.
What?
Like,
And have the NFL legend like Tom Brady criticise you about your work ethic.
But the thing is with Davies, and I know it's easy to say and a lot harder to do, but that squad should have been steamrolling League One. Like, there's something going wrong if it doesn't.
True, I suppose you do still have to go out and do the job, though, don't you?
Yeah.
Like, it's yeah, like you said. I mean, I know you could say it should have been, but it is easier said than done. There is no sort of guarantees with it. I mean, so
No.
I do get the point. Yeah, you're right. Look, it would be a huge disappointment, certainly at the very least, if it didn't get promoted. I mean, if it didn't finish first, then obviously you could say it's a travesty in that sense. You could, and it would have probably been one of the biggest failures of the century if it didn't get promoted. But still, I do take the point Ant's making, though.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that a little bit as well. It's like, I think I could agree with this one. When both Leicester and Leeds were in League One back nearly a decade ago, we should have, both everyone thought we would have killed that, we would have steamrolled the league, didn't we? We didn't, we never did, and a lot of people, it was like the League One teams were playing against like a cup final. It was,
Yeah. But I'll tell you what, the reason I'm like so much on this with Birmingham is their fans from all of pre-season, all of the transfer window, and a large majority of the online fans particularly were saying that they're going to be in a title race, they're going to be pushing automatic promotion. That's the standard I'm going to hold them to now. It's like, don't now because you start struggling, go, oh, we're just a newly promoted team. It's like, no, you've been giving it Billy Big Bollocks. Don't go hiding now.
Do you know, I just point out very quickly, this is quite funny, right? So, and I think any of his on will probably find this quite amusing. This was when Sunderland had Lee Johnson in League One and would beat Ipswich 2-0 in a jammy sort of fashion. And it's like how Ant's been blunt and straight to the point. One interviewer said about Lee Johnson this. So it's like literally one of the shortest interviews ever. Hang on, I'll quickly show this again so Annie can see this. Yeah, Annie, basically, this was after when we had Lee Johnson in League One and we'd beaten Ipswich 2-0 in a very jammy fashion to break up really poor run of form. So this was I think this was an Ipswich fan who was doing a fan interview outside the ground. So hang on, so I'll just quickly get it up. It's like 5 seconds long, but it's just straight to the fucking point. So bear with us. The end. So it's just Ant's bluntness about Birmingham is just kind of reminding me of that, where you can just slag them off in 5 seconds and just get straight to the point and that's it, done.
Yeah, very much.
Can I just say though, we do need to give credit to Stoke. As much as I've just sat here and battered Birmingham, Stoke have been fantastic at the start.
Second in the league, yeah. You know,
it's like it must be nice for Mark Robbins to actually start a seat. Like, and this isn't going to be a Coventry dig. I can see where
it is, man.
Let's get to the point.
It is going to be.
No. It genuinely is not. It's going to be nice for Mark Robbins to start a season in a positive way to see if he can continue that throughout the season compared to having to do a job where he gets to almost Christmas and then almost the season starts. It'll be interesting to see if he can maintain a certain level throughout a season because he's one of those managers that I think he goes through really hot spells in a season, but he can also go through really cold spells. It'll be interesting to see if there can be a level of consistency for him at Stoke.
Yeah, no, yeah. And it's also good for Stoke as well, like we've said before. Given constantly how they constantly should have, when you look at the money they've spent, and again, I've said this before, but since they've got relegated to the Championship, they haven't even finished in the top half, I believe, let alone challenge for promotion. So I think for me, it's nice for them to at least have a good start for a change. And yeah, I'm keen to see how Mark Robbins has done now that he has actually started well. Look, will Stoke finish in the top 2? Probably not. But again, depending on how everyone else does, why not believe? You've had a good start. And obviously the one game they lost was to a very solid West Brom team. So, I don't think there's any disgrace in that. And they have beaten one of the teams that were expected to be challenging for promotion as well and kept a clean sheet against them. So, you're right. Whatever we said about Birmingham, it's extremely solid.
Yeah, very, very solid indeed. We've got a couple of games left to go, guys. We've got 4 games left to talk about. So, yeah, let's get down before we get to Annie's team, which is going to be the last of this segment as well. Hull got a late draw at Swansea after John Egan scored in the equaliser in the 7th minute of added time to give Hull City a dramatic 2-2 draw at Swansea. Swansea was on course for victory after goals from Zam Van Pontnik and Ronald scored either side before Bernie scored against his old club. And is this 3 points? 3 points, gone for Swansea. They should have kept that lead before the end of the game because they look like if they won that game, they would have still be challenged at the moment, moving up to the playoff spot.
It's another disappointing draw, isn't it, for Swansea? They drew against Watford at home, and they should. 97th minute, you're always looking at going, it should have won the game, and they should have probably won the game. But no, McBurney's second goal for Hull against his former club in Swansea, of course. But yeah, look, I quite like the look of Swansea, to be honest. They were a bit unlucky here, but I quite like them. I think the new signings have integrated quite well. Galbraith, Burgess, you've got Adam Eder, you've got Manuel Benson, who I think could be a seriously good signing. I think I quite like Swansea. Hull have got goal power. They'll concede a few. They've got goal power. McBurney, Bellumi, Gelhart. They've got some nice attacking players. So probably a good point for Hull because it's away from home. A bit disappointing for Swansea, but I wouldn't be too concerned if I was a Swans fan. I'd actually be relatively optimistic because I think that they look competitive. And when we say about caretaker managers going into permanent roles, that transition. Alan Sheehan has looked relatively good. He's been aided by some good signings, obviously, but I think that transition has been relatively smooth, and Swansea have made a pretty good start. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, as well as a good late point for Hull as well. We'll talk about the South Coast derby shortly as well. Let's go to Vicarage Road, and Blackburn got a 1-0 win against Watford. Rayo Machita scored his first Blackburn goal in his full championship debut to give a Visual Ismail side a valuable and deserved win. And good chances for Watford. Sorry, Watford in the game. Especially they hit. I think they hit. Machida nearly scored in the first half, hit the bar in the first half, and in front of Sir Elton John, who's I think it was his anniversary when he owned Watford. So to go away to get a win at Vicarage Road against one of the best musicians that we've seen, it's surprising how Blackburn now started to lift away, getting away from the bottom three at the moment.
Go on, I'll let one of these two take it.
All right, I will say good win in the Valerian Ishmael derby.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it's a cracking goal. It's a really good goal. Have they found another Japanese fellow who's just now going to have a really hot start and score loads of goals at the start of the season? They did with Yuki Hayashi last season, who seemingly just scored in every game for the first 10 games. But that's a really good point. Sorry, really good win for Blackburn. They won 3-0 at Hull. Who did they play last time out?
They lost 2-0 at home to Norwich, I think it was.
Yes.
So they were down to 10 men at 0-0.
That's the one. So you can write that off a little bit, I guess. And it was 0-0 for the red up until the red card, so you can kind of write that off. Give them a little pass, but yeah, it's a good win. Look, I'm still not convinced by Blackburn purely because of their summer window and the absolutely incredible decision to sell Dumheim that late in the window. I get it. Last year his contract, a lot of money. Just don't have the depth to replace him. Anyway, whatever.
And the small issue of the Benkies.
That's a pretty small issue. But yeah, but yeah. Look, Valerian Ishmael's not a bad manager. He's had a really good spell with Barnsley. He got sacked with West Brom when they were like 4th or 5th. Look where West Brom finished that season, and yeah, I don't think Blackburn are in bad hands with Ishmael. I think they've been quite lucky with managers over the years. Actually, Eustace in testing conditions. Ishmael's a pretty decent manager. Nearly got them to the playoffs last season. They probably arguably should have gone to the playoffs last season right on the final day. But look, they're not a bad side. They've got some good players in there, and if some of these players they've got from the continent, from abroad, can work, can fit, it's not the making. It's got the makings of a pretty nice core of a squad. So yeah, I think this goes on to a broader point of who am I looking at for relegation in the relegation battle right now and going, they're a dead cert. Maybe apart from Sheffield Wednesday, I'm not really looking at too many else and going, these guys look bang in trouble. There's always, it feels like for a lot of teams this year, there's some things going for them. Like they've got a good attack, they've got a good manager, they're pretty good defensively. Some have got a couple of those things going. They've got some good players. So it feels like Blackburn are more performances and more results Blackburn pull out like this. They'll be fine. They'll be absolutely fine. And again, I'll reiterate though, they've got a good squad. So they've got the makings of a good squad. So yeah, I honestly, this result kind of confused me a little bit just because of what I think of the relegation battle.
Yeah.
Do you think the relegation battle will be quite tightly fought? Apart from, we expect Sheffield Wednesday to finish bottom, obviously, and obviously I hope they don't, but it's looking quite likely with all the issues that are going on and off the pitch there. But the rest of it seems to, I kind of agree with what Annie's saying. I think that there'll be teams that have enough about them to at least give them a fighting chance of staying up. I do have some concerns about Oxford, but at the same time they've got Gary Rowett. But obviously if he goes, that could then, because we don't count for head coach sackings, do we? That could also change perspectives later on in the season. Like Pezzolano from Watford, for example, again, by the next international break, he could be out of the job. We know this is the Watford way. So, but yeah, and bear in mind, Villas-Line Ismail has done a really good job in the sense that he's kept things going under a really toxic ownership, especially on the back of John Eustace going to Derby. So I think that's really important to bear in mind. So yeah, I think it's a solid win away from home for them, but I think it's going to be a fascinating relegation battle if this early signs on to go by it that way.
I think it will be. I think it'd be a lot more tighter than it was last season. I think it will. We could have maybe about up to 4 teams on the final day of the season.
Quite possibly,
yeah, because I feel like that's what's going to be with the teams that's come up this season as well. So, barring Sheffield Wednesday, but I think there's going to be at least 4 or 5 teams at least probably be battling on the last day of the season. I could just see it happening more than I have been because of the gap is kind of closing in the bottom half teams and the teams coming up for League One a little bit. So,
and bearing in mind as well, we expect Sheffield United if they appoint Wilder to start to surge up the table, don't we? You'd be surprised if they're involved long term down in the relegation scrap. So that means that we're kind of dragging another team out of it. But you never know. I mean, if Sheffield United end up being in a relegation battle, then it's going to be an absolute travesty for them, isn't it? But yeah, I'm going to be very intrigued to see who ends up sort of really struggling this year, because now it's quite harder to call who you think is going to be a definite to go down, or who you think is, apart from obviously Sheffield Wednesday. And I get the feeling it's going to whoever we're going to say could be null and void in a few weeks' time. That's how tight it is.
Yeah, very much. It will be null and void as well.
And the thing is, we say all of these stuff about there's quite a few good teams this year, and we quite hard to see who's going to be in that. Well, if we're going to say Sheffield Wednesday are going to finish bottom, 22nd and 23rd, you'd have suggested high watermark, because of high point tally required to survive. But if all of these, if there's like a 10 group there's a group of 10 teams that all take points of each other, it's just going to be such a mess. It's such a compact sort of. It might be it actually might be a relatively low watermark for survival, purely because of all of these teams that just take points off each other. That would also mean sort of a gap somewhere in the middle of the league between, I don't know, 9th and 8th. There's like a 6-7 point gap, something like that, right? But yeah, I think it's really interesting to see how. Would I be surprised if there's a surprise? Would I be surprised at a surprise? Would I be surprised if there's a shock team in there? Probably not. Not at this rate. No.
No, not compared to what was Luton last season.
Well, I was going to say Luton's the outlier last year, isn't they? So I mean, and if you look at the way, and remember, if you look at the way Sheffield United have started, like at the minute, their board are questioned, rightly so at the minute. So you could say there's lack of trust there. So it depends. So sorry.
Not helping themselves.
No, definitely not.
No.
So it would. So although I don't think if they appoint Wilder, I don't think Sheffield United will be down there by the end of the season. But you never know what the environment's going to be like there. So yeah, they could be the surprise package if anything.
Yeah, it could be the surprise package. Probably the biggest surprise package out of the teams that, like Luton, and probably the biggest one out of the teams that have been relegated from the Premier League the last few couple of seasons. So yeah, it's going to be a very interesting season in the bottom half of the table. Really will be as well. Going just not least about 3 games ago, because we're going to talk about Bristol City shortly, and then we'll talk about South Coast Derby. But Andres Weimann scored his first Derby goal in more than 7 years to help Derby to win at West Brom, and to put a damper on the Albion's celebration to mark their 125 years at the Hawthorns, winning 1-0 yesterday. And yeah, a good decent performance from the Rams yesterday.
Yeah, I think you've got to credit them. This is a fantastic win for them. It probably screams of a typical sort of John Eustace away sort of performance. Bye, Ant. No, a typical John Eustace sort of away performance where you're up against a team that are expected again to be right up there, that have had a great start of the season, themselves. So obviously Ryan Mason's done really well for them so far, and remember they won at Stoke last time out. So, but am I right in thinking have Derby got a couple of their defenders back now? Because that was the big talking point with them before the international break. They had a lot of players out. So I'm looking at players like Dion Sanderson, Forsyth, Matt Clark back as well. I don't know how many of them were playing before the international break. I suspect probably all 3 of them definitely.
Sanderson was.
Clark was in there yesterday. Yeah, Clark was in the squad yesterday.
Yeah, he dropped. Eustace dropped Danny Bath, which is all I'm aware of. But he's got his attackers back. Like obviously, Burton Diaz is a new guy, new one in. But if you look at the bench, you got Salverson, and then you've got Agmeyang as well. So that's 3, and Weimann, who's obviously sort of fully fit and firing now.
Yeah,
you've got 3 players, 3 new three new guys in there who are not available or have just been signed. So yeah, he's getting us. And I said this about Derby. And I think we said this about Derby. Once they get those injuries sort of cut, and as the season goes on into November, maybe October, November, that period when they get fully going with these players, they're going to be a real threat because they've got some really good sort of attacking players. So yeah, sorry, Michael. Yeah,
No, it's fine. And one of the best managers of the championship as well. I think it's fair saying it's at least an underrated shout there. And remember, you look at some of the attacking talent they've got, like again, Brent and Diaz, superb signing for them.
Yeah.
That's one of them. Andres Weimann, obviously a really solid championship experience. There was another one, Rian Brewster, I believe they signed on a free from
Sheffield United.
And one that I said before, I think was one of the better signings of the summer that is underrated for the championship is Carlton Morris. I think Carlton Morris, this is the first game I believe that Carlton Morris has not scored in. So he's still had a blistering start with him. And I think, so you've got to mention that obviously, look, West Brom did have their chances from what I did see on the highlights. So Derby would have had to have really stuck and dug in there. But these are the type of wins that if, say, Derby do end up challenging for the playoffs, these are the sort of wins they'll look back on and go, we've proven we can go away from home at a team that is expected to be challenging. And we've gone and done a job on them. And bear in mind, obviously, if they'd got a point would have been very good at West Brom. Safe to say for Derby, but to nick all three, it's a typical cliche of a classically good away performance. I would say from Derby's point of view. So yeah, I think it's a really really incredible 3 points for them.
Yeah.
And by the way, from West Brom, that was that was West Brom's first defeat, wasn't it?
Yes.
In the championship, yeah. Sorry, go on.
Can I just say, so happy for Andy Weimann. He's had a bit of a torrid summer because of the move. He just didn't get any communication from Blackburn as what they wanted. So happy for him, and I love Andy Weimann to bits. So great that he scored.
It was very lack of communication from Blackburn board, and especially they wanted him to sign a new contract or not. It was very, very lack of communication, and I feel like they didn't want him.
Yeah, but purely from his perspective, to go to West Brom where he had a loan spell for 6 months. He was okay there, but it wasn't anything inspiring. So to go there and score a wonderful goal. I mean, he's still got it as Andy Weimann. I mean, he's just a quality player. Even if he's 50 years old, the guy could still finish. And give him a chance inside the box, and he'd still finish it. And he's just a natural goal scorer at this level. He may have lost that yard of pace he had a couple of years ago, or a few years ago, but he's still a top championship player. And I'll always love Andy Weimann. Great, what a player he was for us.
He's not devastated at all.
No.
A little bit of my heart just breaks every time I see him in a Derby, West Brom, Blackburn shirt. Just a little bit.
Any shirt apart from Bristol City.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be fair, what's the phrase? Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened.
Every day.
Fair enough.
All right. Then we get into our penultimate game. We'll talk about the South Coast Derby. The first South Coast Derby in 13 years was a 0-0 draw between Southampton and Portsmouth. I think Pompey would be happy with the point because they were the better side in the first half, and I think Andre Dozell's strike, hit the bar. I thought it was going to go in, but as I said, the Saints improved, but I know the whole fans were not happy with the 0-0 draw. They were booing.
Yeah.
This is the second Scottish draw between these two sides. The last one came in 1924.
What a time to break the record! 81 years later. To be fair, yeah, I think you are right. I think Pompey will be the happier of the two of them. And actually, to be fair, I thought Pompey played quite well first half.
Yeah.
I think Pompey were the one that were in the ascendancy. Obviously, Giselle shot hitting the bar as well. But they put Southampton, they caused a lot of anxiety amongst Southampton. Even though it wasn't a game where there was gilt-edged chance repeatedly every 5 minutes, it was still, if any team was going to score, I felt it looked like it was going to be Portsmouth. And I think, if anything, I think Portsmouth obviously would have gone into this game underdogs. Because Southampton, year one parachute team, Pompey, not long, just a year ago, came up from League One after so many years in there. Southampton, of course, coming down from the Premier League. Financially, obviously, have got more resources at the moment. But from Pompey's point of view, yeah, I think the first half was really good. And again, it demonstrates how good a manager, as Annie said before, how good a manager John Messina actually is for Portsmouth. Second half, Southampton did improve, which you would have expected, being the home team, and especially the more fancied team going into the South Coast Derby. But I don't think Southampton threatened enough for my liking. I think Southampton's, and you got to credit Portsmouth for still that, like the stuff you love in a derby, the blood and thunderous challenges, the heroic blocks last minute. Like Pompey were extremely resolute when they got to the point where they were being pushed back and having to defend a point. Basically, I was very impressed how resolute and diligent Portsmouth were, and were very difficult for Southampton to break down. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it is still early doors, but I would argue you could say Southampton's flat to deceive so far. I don't think Southampton's looked particularly, granted, I'm not on board maybe this is because apparently he rejected Sunderland a year ago and I'm bitter about that possibly, but I'm not seeing the hype around Will Still at the moment. Now that may well come in time, but I'm questioning why there's been so much hype around Will Still, apart from the fact he played Football Manager and then went to go on to manage professionally, which is impressive, by the way, to point that out, to be fair. But I think from Southampton, I expected a little bit more, if I'm honest. But for Portsmouth, very, very good point away at your rivals who have much more resources than you do.
It's the same point as I was just going to say.
I was just going to very quickly add as well, and Pompey didn't. Sorry, I know I keep interrupting, and I know, but Portsmouth didn't go there just to sit for a point either. They actually had good spells in the game.
Yeah.
I was going to say same point as I made on kind of Millwall, where take the point away from home, and in this case, probably a larger disparity in terms of resources and stuff and squad quality on paper. Pompey were great. I thought they were fantastic, and I watched the whole game. They looked more threatening in the first half. I just felt like, and maybe because Segicic and Chaplin are both new players, I just felt like there was a missing link in that final third. But you could see every time Josh Murphy got on the ball and he ran. Who was it? Roslev, Mads Roslev.
Yeah.
I was going to say Brentford, but he's not Brentford anymore. At Southampton. He could just ran at him, and he put in one delicious ball in the second half, I think it was, for Colby Bishop. She might have been the first half. Honestly, can't remember. I thought Pompey were great. On the balance of play, they were the better team in the first half. Second half, I thought Southampton got into it a little bit more. Didn't quite use their possession well enough. Yeah, they went a bit more direct. They tried to hit in the second half Adam Armstrong when he came on. But Cameron Archer in behind Regan Poole and Connor Shaughnessy, who were just so solid. I mean, they've played together for 2 years, basically. I know Poole had that ACL injury, but they've known each other for a long time, and they've just got a formidable partnership at centre back together. And they're really hard to play against. So it's a very good point for Pompey, because you take away the sort of derby and emotional aspect of it. If they went away to Ipswich and got a 0-0 draw, brilliant, great point, move on, you're laughing. But maybe it's a tinge of disappointment. They were probably the better team on Derby Day. I mean, if they'd won at St Mary's, I mean, what a sort of storyline that would have been with all the sort of context around it. I thought it was also quite entertaining, the handshake, or the lack of handshake, between Mousinho and Will Still after the game, which caused a bit of flames. But it's probably the most animated I've seen John Mousinho on the touchline as well. I mean, this guy's so calm, so sort of relaxed most of the time. every time the camera sort of pans to the touchline, he's having a go at the ref, he's having a go at Will Still. Literally in the first 30 seconds, there was a
I saw that and I thought, wow.
Them having an argument. As Will Still like this, like, what are we talking about stuff? I mean, Mousinho go and actually live it up. It's great. And that's what I suppose derby games can do to even the calmest of individuals.
Can I just point out as well, by the way, when you mentioned one of those signings there for Pompey, I've got to say, Connor Chaplin really impresses me that they managed to get him.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic signing for Portsmouth. That really did stick out. But yeah, I think Annie's right. I think that if either team looked the more likely to win, even across the whole game, I'd say Portsmouth in the first half looked better than Southampton did in the second, if that makes sense. I think Portsmouth looked the more threatening across the whole game, and I think, I mean, you know what you guys said. What do you guys think of the boos from the Southampton fans at the end? Is that because they expected to beat Portsmouth? Is that because they haven't started as well as they think they should have done? Being a parachute team? Is it a combination of both? I don't know.
I think it's a combination of everything, to be quite honest with you. I think the frustration because I think the fans expected more of them, especially if we look at the head of the table. They should not be in the mid. They should be kick it on. Especially before the international break. They got the first win of the season. But the last couple of games, it's just been really well 3 draws and 1 loss. You do need to question what is the style that they play at the moment.
And am I right in thinking they haven't won in the league since the opening day? Is that right, or did they win a game since? I could, yeah. So, but if you're looking at it again, I know obviously it's not as easy as sort of just putting a squad together and hoping it gels. But like you look at Howard Bellis, there was talks about him leaving. He still managed to keep him at St Mary's. Gavin Banzunu, by the way, ex-Pompey loanee a few years ago in League One. Obviously, he's now at Southampton, which is quite funny. But then you got, I think, Ryan Manning there. We look at Flynn Downs, Shea Charles, Tom Fellows, and Finn Azaz, who arrived late in the window. Ryan Fraser, Cameron Archer. Like, am I wrong for expecting a bit more from Southampton with that? I know, obviously, to some degree, they have to gel together, and a couple of them have just come in, so that maybe could explain things a bit. But I don't know. I just think, and again, it's because the hype that happened with Will Still when he arrived, and with what they've got, I think it is fair to ask questions of him. But the caveat, of course, is that you could get better because there's still loads of
I think the no one that questioned him, especially because he was managing the Farmers League in France, and technically he is a Farmers League in France.
Yeah. Well, let's just say he rejected Sunderland to go to Lens. That's it. Simple as that.
Exactly.
Farmers League and PSG.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Possibly.
Pretty much.
Yeah, PSG. Yeah, PSG plus Farmers League.
PSG, Marseille, someone like that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, fair point. But yeah, I just think because he's now because of getting the media exposure across, now he's now moved to England. That's going to be the interesting part. How does he deal with that? Especially a club like Southampton, who did sell a lot of sell Tyler Diblin to Everton, Mateus Fernandes to West Ham for big money, and he expected him to do bit more better. But it's like I said, it's going to be under pressure. He's going to be under pressure, especially of what he did at Rams and then Lawrence as well. So there's going to be pressure on him, especially him being one of the big names. Going to one of the parachute payment club like Southampton.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sums up. Yeah, and I agree with Michael on his point where he said they've got new players, very good players, Azaz and Fellows in particular. They'll take a little bit of time to gel. I mean, there's one point where Fellows, Tom Fellows, what do you associate with him on the right hand side, gets to the byline, cuts it, and then puts a cross in with his right foot. He was on the left hand side for a corner at one point, and trying to cut in on his right foot from the left hand side. They'll still take a little bit of time to fully gel. And yeah, I think Will's still trying to create sort of a blend of ideas. They're not trying to do things one way like they did with Russell Martin. They're probably trying to be a little bit more flexible. In terms of they can go direct if they want and be effective. They can pass out the back and be effective. I think they're probably trying to get to that stage, and they've probably not quite clicked quite yet. But I wouldn't be concerned if I was a Saints fan at all. No, they've not. It's not like they've lost their opening 5 games like a certain team. They've had a mess start for their standards. It's not like they've cut adrift or anything like that. If this is the case, and I don't know, another 10 games time, then yeah, okay, we'll be having conversations about Will Still, but I don't think it's a real issue right now.
Fair
enough as well. Right, come to the last game, Annie. It's your team. The Robins went away to win 3-0 at Hillsborough against Sheffield Wednesday. Take it away. Sum up the performance and the result yesterday.
Clearly, Annie's thinking, can we play in Sheffield every week? Win 3 goals and 3 goals at both of them.
I don't think you would have caught me saying that at the end of last season, but
no.
Yeah, I mean, weirdly, we didn't play that well. If I'm being brutally honest, we didn't. This is going to sound really disrespectful to Sheffield Wednesday. We didn't need to play that well, to be brutally honest. It was like, again, this is also going to sound really disrespectful to Sheffield Wednesday. It was like when when like Man City go to Cheltenham in the cup away from home and stuff like that. If Man City score an early goal, that this is going to get away from them quickly. Something like that. It felt like that. That's what it felt like. We got the early goal. we got really lucky with the goal. I will say it took a massive deflection of Harry Amas on the goal line.
It was his
But after
debut,
that,
wasn't it? It was his debut as well yesterday. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, he was really unlucky for that goal, but we're fortunate for us. But then after that, we sort of killed them with transition moments, and we're good at that. We're good at that now, which I'm still getting a little bit used to be honest. Instead of seeing us trying to pass out of the back and trying to work it and stuff like that. But we're very good on transition. Adam Randall has been absolutely outstanding. The guy is so good. We got him on a really good deal from Plymouth. Apparently, there's a relegation clause or something like that for 700 grand. Oh, goodness me, what a steal! He's brilliant alongside Jason Knight, two absolute dogs in the middle of the park. Don't stop running. Two Duracell bunnies. I kept calling Jason Knight a Duracell bunny last season. We've got two of them in the middle of the park now. Brilliant. He was great for the third goal. Slide tackle in the middle of the park. Wins it back. Boom, goes left. Switch play to the right hand side. Back across. Mehmeti finishes it for 3. And then after that, it's comfortable, isn't it? But honestly, we can play a lot better. And that's probably a good and a bad thing, because I don't think there's been any game this season where I'm going, we have completely dominated them for 90 minutes or for a large proportion of the game and just completely killed them. Hull was probably close, but once again, there were too many. I think there were also moments against Hull where we were just a little bit too open. Sheffield United, I don't know, one of the weirdest games I've ever seen. Watched in signing football. Just fortunate that was for us. But look, it's a great start. You can't argue with it. But if I'm being really, really, really cynical, if you look at the teams that we've played, Sheffield United are at the bottom of the league in a complete mess. Failed to beat Charlton at home. We failed to beat Derby away, where we probably should have won that, especially considering the injuries they have and stuff like that, and they'll be better later on in the season. Okay, we beat Hull, great, but you probably expect to win that game, if I'm being really honest. And we've beaten the Sheffield Wednesday side that are a bit hapless. So
Yeah.
it's not been the most difficult start, hands down. But I think we've seen a. If I mean,
Still got to win the games.
That's me being completely candid. But we've still seen. I think even with that, we've still seen a shift in the style of play from what it was last season, despite keeping pretty much all of the players apart from a couple that were there last season. We've seen a nice shift, and we've seen a team, I think, that's just a little bit more expressive in the final third in particular. We get the ball forward quicker. We're still very good. We're very good defensively. The Hull game was a bit of an anomaly where we could have conceded a few more. But apart from that, we've been very good defensively. We're pretty solid. Dickey, Atkinson, and Viner are brilliant at the back. So I'm very happy. I'm very happy with how it started. I'm still not getting carried away or anything like that. I'm still
5 games in. You just want to see how take it game by game, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I still want to see more. I want to see more consistency from Struber. I still want to see more from Struber, but I'm definitely bought in now. I was unconvinced after the appointment and after honestly the game against Derby, where I was a bit like, God, I don't want to see that sort of football really. But it's got better since, and yeah, I'm really optimistic and I'm really pleased with how it started. And typically, Bristol City, we just sort of screw it up when we should win the games that we should, and we just sort of mess it up. But no, this team is good. This team has won for a year now. This kept winning for a year. It's got a little bit of a winning gene in it, and it's got a little bit of and same team. That's the consistency, that stability is there. If this manager can sort of extract that and implement some ideas that make it better, it's an open division. It could be an open division with some of the parachute teams struggling. Sheffield United, maybe Southampton, maybe not Ipswich, maybe Ipswich. Leicester points deduction, who knows? So yeah, I'm I'm optimistic, but I'm still very, very much level header.
You're sitting on the more
Feet
on
on
the
the ground.
fence, just
Which is
more
fair
on the
enough. That's probably a good way to be, to sort of just keep yourself on the ground, really. But I'll ask Annie this, right? So if I said to you, right pre-kickoff, Bramall Lane, right? You're about to kick off there. If I said to you after 5 games, you'll be above all 4 parachute teams in the table, what would you have said?
Well, I thought I'd have won all 5 games, to be honest.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. All right, then let me put it this way. If I'd said to you in a universe, after 5 games, you will be 11 points above the team that beat you 6-0 in the playoffs last year, what would you have said to that? 11 points.
I'd have assumed they had just lost all their games so far, to be honest.
Yeah, probably.
I'm,
Fair enough, yeah.
I'm a serial pessimist. You see, I'm probably the
I
one
like
person
how
in the
you
world-
just that serious person who's just
Yeah.
like, he just.
I always say pessimism and realism often get confused as the same thing. When
Yeah.
sometimes they're not. But yeah, I do get your point. I think I think again, if you look at it this way, to get in the playoffs, I mean, I know last year you got in on 68 points, 69.
Yeah, I mean, trust me, I would know because people don't stop banging on about how we're the worst team in playoff history, and after 6-0, losing
Doesn't matter.
6-0.
You still finished 6th, didn't you? So you don't. The table doesn't go. Bristol City finished 6th. Asterisk. It does not count because they finished on 68 points. Like it just says you finished 6th.
I think it
So-
was more to do with that 68 points coupled with the fact that we suffered the heaviest defeat ever in a playoff in the championship. That probably didn't help us. But people seem to conveniently forget that we got a red card within.
I was just
the
about to
first
say
half
that
of
though,
the
but yeah, people forget
was
that
like,
that 6-0 was heavily influenced by a red card at the first half of the first leg. So,
Yeah.
I will say this: didn't have a centre back sort of 3 anyway, and then our best centre back, maybe not our best centre back actually, an important player in the team gets sent off within 45 minutes.
Lady
And
Luck
we-
strikes
then we
Chris
have to go-
Wilder. Lady Luck strikes Chris Wilder again.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And then we have to go. Then we have to go away to a team with 92 points with 1 fit centre back. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I'd
so,
like to
yeah,
see you try and turn around a 3-0 deficit. Yeah,
But the point I was making was, I think that if you look at, let's say for example, because it might need more than 68 points, for example, to get 6th. I think it's a safe assumption, but let's say it is, right? Say if it was like 75 points, for example, you could say Bristol City are a 7th of the way there with 41 games to play. If you want to look at it that way, the best way to do it for me is if you look by Christmas, be on between 37 to 40 points, something like that. After Christmas, after the New Year, maybe 40 points is a good mark to aim for. So that's after what, 26 games, for example. So if you're on 40 points after that, so what you still say if you wanted to get 40 points after that point, you could be on, what was it, 21 games to get 29 points. If you look at it that way. So it's all about how you kind of, the way I look at it, if you're looking at it as teams' respective targets, is take it in game chunks. Like say, for every 5 games, by the end of that fixture list, I want to be on this many points. By the end of that many games, I want to be on this many points. So if you look at an average of 3 wins and 2 draws. Obviously, Bristol City, as Annie knows, and he'll be the pessimist, I'll tell you, Bristol City obviously will, of course, lose games. Every team loses games. But, and in the case of Sheffield United, every single week they lose games. So,
not lost yet.
Yeah, but, well, not exactly. But at the same time, you're still above 4 of the teams with the biggest resources in the league. You're still above Coventry. Okay, granted, again, it is only 5 games, but a team that were in the play, that a team that by 1 place, granted, finished above you last year. So there's still a lot of reasons to be encouraged about it. And people forget, you can say, it's not been the hardest start. Hello, a lot of teams in the Championship mess up those type of games. So, it's the Championship. If it really was as linear and straightforward as that, then everyone would be winning every game that they should be. Just doesn't work that way. As we all know, the Championship does not work like that. So, it's full of results that are crazy. We want to look at it this way. Sorry, West Brom go to Stoke and win, then lose at home to Derby.
I was just going to say,
Derby
I'm sure you two are looking at the Championship right now as neutrals and probably looking at a set of teams that are sort of maybe could challenge for promotion, could get into the playoffs. Do you look at us and go, yeah, these guys could do it again? Because I'm honestly, from inside looking in, I have little clue to where we stand for the rest of the division, where our hierarchy is this season. I have no clue.
I think you're helped by I think you're. I don't see why you can't challenge for playoffs again.
Yeah, same.
Personally, I think for me, and the reason I say that is because if you look at it, particularly Ipswich, Southampton, and Sheffield United, Sheffield United obviously have had a horribly terrible start, of course. But even if say they got Chris Wilder in and then they got on a really good run, you've still got an 11-point gap over them. That's still like, even at this stage, that's huge. Like, it allows you more wiggle room than what it does with them. If you look at Southampton and Ipswich, both are only on 6 points, which for them you would say is quite poor. So and I'm pretty sure last season the top 4 obviously started on a blistering run, didn't they? Like Sheffield United started with a couple of draws, but they still started relatively solid in the first 10 or so games or 5 or so games. Leeds and Burnley both started really, really well. So there's definitely, because I thought this league would be harder this year because I thought it'd be more higher quality at the top. But if the first 5 games are anything to go by, then I think that's not an assumption that's correct. There's a lot of inconsistency at the minute, I think, with a lot of teams in there. But again, the caveat is it's I don't know what Carl thinks, but the caveat is it's only 5 games. But the top and bottom of it for me is I don't see any reason why Bristol City can't finish in the playoffs again. Put it that way.
Yeah, I echo what you said, Michael. From an outside point of view, like I said, I know with Annie being more inside what's going on at Bristol City.
He'll have a different viewpoint to us, won't he?
Yeah, he will have. Yeah, of course, and I will understand that. I think on the outside, the way you came against Sheffield United, and everyone expected Sheffield United to start really well that first game. We just didn't expect that thumping result you guys did at Bramall Lane. And then, listen, I know the draw at Derby is set back, but sometimes the setbacks is always probably a good thing because it gives you real expectations. But I think the last couple of games you have, despite you not being at your best performance, you don't have to be. As long as you win those games, that's the vital thing. And I can really see you guys be in that challenging for the playoffs. I think you can again. I think with last season, what happened in that the controversial red card with Rob Dickey, as I said, that game was gone. I think if nothing goes against you this season, I think you'll be more than all right. I think you've sorted the squad out, rebalanced, signed Emma Maurice, who is a good player. I think to get, to have someone there, I think it's going to be vital as long as you keep some of your players fit and not have any injuries down the line. I think you'll be all right this season. I have no doubt about it.
And by the way, just to add to that as well, they've done well, I think, to recover from the fact. Remember, they lost Liam Manning in the summer. So they've done quite well, I think, especially when you consider all of that. Sorry, I need to remind you of that. But it was a big thing, to be fair. Like, it was... So I think you've done... And let me put it this way. Yeah, okay, Sheffield United started poorly. But remember, you were the first game. There was no indication at that point Sheffield United were going to start badly. And it was at Bramall Lane as well, by the way. Then Sheffield Wednesday, okay, fair enough. All I'll say is Wrexham, who a lot of people fancy to do well, drew 2-2 at home against them after being 2-0 up. No game is still. That's a lesson not to take anything for granted. And again, if you look at it this way, whatever your fixtures, you've scored 12 goals in the opening 5 league games, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. There you go. Now, Annie's reaction there tells everyone when he goes, yes, and we don't normally score that many. So there you go. That says quite a lot. At the end of the day, the better you start, the better the confidence is. So, well, put it this way. Well, we both think you have every chance of being in the top 6 picture at least. What do you think, having from the inside perspective of the championship then? What's your view on it?
I think a lot of the fan base, and I'm going to take a little bit of a historic journey here, I think a lot of the fan base was probably still, despite last season's success, probably questioning Liam Manning because of the football. I thought the football was great, but that's mine. That's just my take on it. Probably because the
There's a lot for you to say that, by the way, because I know I've heard you criticise the football quite heavily on a lot of occasions with Liverpool City.
Yeah, but I thought Manning ball was good to watch. But anyway, whatever. And they probably just wanted a little bit of more excitement, and that's probably been a little bit of probably tinted their view on Struber and stuff. Yeah. I've been quite balanced. If anything, I've been slightly sort of harsh on Struber so far, up to date, and been a little bit sort of hard on him in my analysis and stuff. I probably underestimated the level within the squad already, and I was just having a look. These group of players have been, a lot of these players have been together for like 3 years now, at least 2 years. Dickey and Viner have been together for 2 years, and they've been a centre-back sort of partnership for 2 years. Atkinson's been here for the longest time, but he's just been injured. Cam Pring's been here for the longest time, academy graduate. Jason Knight's been here for, this will be his 3rd year at City. Mehmeti's been here for a long time. Scott Twine's been here for a year and a half, and this is his second full year at City. We've added sort of nicely. We've added sort of in areas where we've needed to. We've added depth. We've added good depth, and I think the floor of the squad has improved over the summer. I'm still unconvinced whether or not we can get into the top six. Would I be at all surprised if we are somehow in there? Probably not, but I'd be well. I say that I'd probably be a little bit surprised if we go into the top six. I think we'll probably just be teetering on the edge. I've been very happy with the start, as I said, but we're a good team, and I think I'm still sort of struggling to get to grips with that. We're a pretty good team for this level, actually, for especially considering the non-parachute teams, and we've done really well over the summer to sort of, because you see sort of some of the smaller clubs. We're not the biggest club in the championship. Who lose in the playoffs. Normally, all their sort of major assets get stripped and they're gone. They're sold. We've only really lost Liam Manning, and
Yeah.
Liam Manning was obviously a massive part of what was so good about Bristol City last season. But we've kept the squad. We've got a manager who I think has kept the system, as he's realised, okay, something's working here. And he's just added to that, and he's made us a little bit more in areas where we're a little bit weak, and he's made us better. And the recruitment's been pretty decent. We've not lost anyone. If you told me at the start of the summer, you don't lose Jason Knight, you don't lose Zach Viner, you don't lose Ross McCrory, Max Bird, people like these, but you add in certain areas which makes the whole squad a little bit better by 10%, maybe not by 10%, by like 5-6%. I'd honestly taken it. I'd have honestly taken it because I was fully expecting at least one major sale this summer, but we haven't got that, and thank God we haven't got that because the stability's been great. So yeah, again, this is probably just the pessimist side of me. I don't really want to convince myself that I'm gonna because last summer I was fully in like, yep, this team is capable of getting into the top six or challenging for the top six at least, and we've got a great manager. I just don't want to go down that same path again. But yeah, okay. I think we're pretty solid for the division, and I think we've got a pretty good team. And we're a bit of a nuisance, which I like, which I love. Let's just go out there and rustle some feathers, I guess.
Well, I'm sure you want to get the table up, and he will not get tired of seeing this at all.
Nope, absolutely not. And like I said, we'll finish the show on the highway by looking at the tables at the moment. So at the moment, Middlesbrough and Bristol City and Coventry, the only teams with 100% record unbeaten at the moment. With Stoke moving up to second, Bristol City behind them in third. Leicester, West Brom and Coventry make up the top six. Swansea drop down to seventh, just outside the playoff with Preston and Portsmouth. Increase that wager with the two backs of the backs. They move to 12th. And down at the bottom of the table, it's still winless for Sheffield United. And also Sheffield Wednesday and Oxford United. They still not won their first game of this season. Like I said, a good draw for good win for Derby. They move out of the bottom three, so that was huge for them. And along with Ipswich Town getting their first win of the season, they are both Southampton in 15th place, along with Blackburn down in the mid-table with Watford and Charlton Athletic as well. So before we finish, gents, I know Michael's on yesterday with me and Reese on the Saturday show. Annie, I don't know if you heard about this. There's been the news from the Athletic came in, and this was a proposal from Peter Ridsdale from Preston that they want to expand the playoff to 6 teams. Can you really see something like that ever work for the championship playoffs?
Ignore the fact my dog's trying to attack me, but go on.
You're gonna have to remind me of how that exactly would work, because it's still the top 2. Ignore them.
It's more like the National League, so the top team goes, but in the championship, will be the top 2.
I think we'll have to explain it. Yeah, I think basically how it would work, I think, is that. So what was it? You'd have so there's it 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Yes.
So am I right in thinking the team that would finish 8th would face the team that finishes 5th in a playoff quarterfinal?
Yeah.
The team that finishes 7th would face the 6th place team in a quarterfinal. then the winner of them two would face third and fourth respectively in a semi-final. And I think it might be that in the National League, it's one leg each
It's
way.
one leg, yeah.
So, for example, the teams that would finish third and fourth would have a bye already. They don't have to play a quarterfinal. They await whoever wins. So the team who finishes third would wait to see who would win out of fifth versus eighth. And the team who finishes fourth would play the winner of sixth versus seventh.
Yeah.
Then they would all play each other. Then the winners obviously advance to the playoff final. That's how I think it would work if it did.
So the quarterfinals are a one leg,
Yeah.
and they're played at the homes of fifth and sixth.
Yes.
That's how I think it would work, yes.
Yeah.
If it's anything like the National League, that's how it would work.
I don't know. I kind of like the playoffs as it is. It
So do I.
can be a bit unfair. It can be a bit unfair. I do agree. It can be sometimes a little bit of an unfair reflection over the 46-game season. But ultimately, if third place are playing sixth place and you can't beat them over two legs, realistically, what are you doing in third place at that point? You've got the second leg at home, so any deficit you do have, you've got the home leg to try and overcome it. You've got a better chance of doing that at home. I don't know. Obviously it would give more teams a chance of promotion, which is good, and I can see why Peter Risdale might do it. The Preston, is he the owner or the chairman?
No, he's the chairman. He's yeah, I know. Everyone thinks he's still the owner. He's the owner, but he's not. So
But I can see why the Preston chairman might do it. It might give them more of a chance of getting into the playoffs. I can see why. I can see why we might try and do it, get us into eighth or seventh, and we might have a chance of promotion. I mean, on the flip side of that, there's an argument already, isn't there, in the Premier League, where if top two teams are struggling to get in there and really challenge to even fight for survival, let alone survive, what happens if you get an eighth place team from the Championship that gets promoted?
Yeah, that's a good point.
See?
The more we discussed about in depth yesterday, because the one thing I've always liked is probably how Germany uses their system. If the teams been if the bottom two teams get relegated, the teams the one team that is in the relegation, they'll play against one of the teams that is from the second Bundesliga to try to, and I think they play over two legs as well. They play over two legs as well, actually. Could you see that work because of how the goal for the Premier League and the Championship is?
You see, I just don't like that because the German thing you mentioned, where they do the 16th in the Bundesliga against one of the playoff thingies. I just don't like that because if you take Southampton, for example, if you put them in the Premier League, look at their squad last season. You've got Matheus Fernandes, Aaron Ramsdale, Tyler Dibling, Carl Walker-Peters. These guys would never play in the Championship. They would never play in the Championship. So why are they playing a Championship team? Why are they playing
a massive disadvantage, isn't it, to the team that's already in the Championship playing the playoff, isn't there? So
yeah. And if you're trying to compare a team that's in the Premier League to the Championship in terms of how they transition, you've got to give them a summer. You've got to give them a summer to sort of let them build their squad because they're not expected to survive in the Premier League with a Championship level squad.
No.
Same way. I don't know, a Premier League squad that's coming down, won't be the same in the slightest to the one they'll be competing in the Championship at the start of the season. So I just don't think that's right. I don't see that working. I get it. You're trying to sort of match in terms of who's better at that point. I just don't think that's fair. I don't think that system.
I think you say Germany because Germany play a lot less games and they play 34 games, and that's why they have 18 teams. So it's same with France as well. So it's just how do we bridge that gap in a way? That's what I would thinking. What is the best solution?
And I don't know. Presumably, the Germans don't have a thing called parachute payments either, which
that's a fair point.
Which do help. So I could potentially see that working for them. But
because like I said, it's the Bundesliga. It's like across the first Bundesliga and the second Bundesliga, so it's the same system where the EFL and Premier League are two separate entities.
Well, put it this way: if you're looking at the financial way, just to not make it too much about us, we signed Granit Xhaka from Leverkusen as a promoted club out of the Premier League for 8 years. That says a lot about the financial, how a team promoted from the Championship could spend more than someone like Bayer Leverkusen probably.
Than the team that won the league unbeaten the season
years
before.
last. Yeah, exactly. And I'm not just that's just one example, but like there's huge clubs in Germany that probably don't have the finances of say Leeds, Burnley, or Sunderland, for example, which is stupid when you think about it, really.
Yeah.
It's the same with La Liga in many ways. But the point, yeah.
And also, sorry, Michael. Yeah, sorry.
No, go on, you finish. Go on.
I was going to say, if you move away from the Championship for a second, if you look at League Two, where already 3 teams go up automatically, and we're saying what 3 teams plus from 4th down to 9th, would that be? Unless they change that to
there was those talks about depth of like League One, League Two looking at for because I think the National League have been asking the EFL to say to have another 3 teams promoted than the 2 teams that go down. So
By
they
the way,
have
just
been
to point
talks about
out,
that.
League 1 and League 2 teams enter the FA Cup in an earlier round, and they've got the EFL trophy at least 3 extra games in a season as well, plus the Carabao Cup. Like the fixtures are there's a ridiculous fixture overload in Leagues 1 and 2 in particular. So imagine if you added an extra couple of playoff games onto that at the end of a long grueling season.
Yeah.
And in League One, 4 teams go down.
Yeah.
And I don't like how we're not consistent with it. In the Championship, we're 3 up, 3 down. In League One, we have 3 up, 4 down. In League Two, we have 4 up, 2 down.
2 down.
That's just no. I don't like that. Why is that not the same? Why is that? Why does a team, as we saw with Notts County and Wrexham, or some incredibly a few years ago, they were the top 2. They were absolutely miles better than the rest of the National League. Why are they not going up automatically? Why is it champions go up automatically, which is obviously right and fair, absolutely. Why isn't the team second place with 100 and something godly number of points not finishing going automatically up? So I think the EFL and the National League need to get it absolutely in order. I think it probably should be 3 across all the sort of divisions, all the major divisions in England.
Yeah, I remember the proposals. Sorry.
I was going to say, then you can have a fair conversation about changing the playoffs, because then it becomes sort of fair and even. Because if you do it in League Two with 3 going up, that would mean from 1st down to 9th, all have a chance at promotion. All of them. Top 9, that's pushing it. And I know we want to get more teams to sort of give them a chance of promotion, but if that is the case in League Two, I think that's probably a little bit ridiculous.
Well, I do remember going back to 5 years ago, probably way before COVID, 5-6 years ago. I remember this for a fact. The EFL was looking at reorganizing the whole league, the whole 3 leagues, to have 20 teams in each, and there was a lot of backlash from the National League teams at the time. Now everything's now flipped around. It's National League teams are complaining, and then the EFL are kind of, well, we did propose this a few years ago, but you lot didn't take it. So how did they meet in the middle of that? Especially, a couple of years ago, one entity was against it, and now the other entity is now for it. It doesn't make sense. We could have that conversation years ago, and it would have been resolved by then.
I think first, before we do anything with the playoffs, in my humble opinion, you've got to find a way. It's quite a simple solution. Make it so that each and every EFL division is the same in terms of number of teams that go up, number of teams that go down. Because then I think you can sort of standardize sort of how this would work. But you've also got the problem of Premier League to Championship is a big gap.
Yeah.
League One to Championship is a big gap, but slightly smaller. And League Two to League One is minuscule. You've got teams in League Two who just sort of go straight through League One, finish in mid-table. Like the start of this season, got Bradford who are right up there, Donny who are right up there. You've got Wrexham, obviously, season before, who were right up there. You've got teams comfortably surviving in League One. Wimbledon this season who look like they're going to survive. Started really well. Port Vale look really competitive. You've got teams coming up from League Two who are already pretty good League One sides. So how would that work in terms of standardizing? I think it brings too many complications. I like the proposal. It gives it gives 2 more teams to get into the playoffs and give them a chance of promotion. Yeah, okay, that's probably reflected on the number of games they have to play in the playoffs. I like it, but also doesn't fit with what we already have in the system at the moment, which is already a little bit broken, in my opinion.
Yeah. So I'd say this. So I remember this article now, and this was about nearly 10 years ago now, actually. So the EFL and FA were looking at reorganising the league where it's going to be, they were to shake up the English football to create 100 teams in 5 divisions, where the EFL at the time wanted to create an extra league, have 20 teams from each from 29-20, but like I said, the EFL was told by the FA that the plans were no longer viable and stuff because it would have been involved of moving the FA Cup fixture into midweek slots, the FA, so we're now at the same slimmer scenario again 10 years later. So where does the balance hold now of making,
The other problem you've got is that a lot of teams, well, like say for example, if they're chairman of Preston or someone associated with Preston saying it all comes again down to self-interest, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's the thing, really. I mean, so it might have been that Preston looked at Bristol City last season and went, well, hang on, that we were both historically known for being mid-table championship. Well, they broke that, so like give us the chance of doing that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm still kind of with Annie on this. I like the playoffs format as it is right now. I think, and even then, there's been an argument about, the team who finishes third shouldn't have to play the playoffs. Should just be the top 3 that go up automatically. I know. I think the playoffs work quite well as it does right now, where you've got the team versus sixth, the team who finishes versus third, then fifth v fourth over 2 legs to determine like these are the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth best teams in the league. Give them a chance to go for it and slug it out effectively. I suppose you could say another problem with it and the playoff system is the fact that am I right in thinking there's not been, I think the last time that 5th v 6th got to the final might have been Villa Derby in 2019, I think.
yes.
I want to say, I know a couple of years ago, Coventry, who finished 5th, faced Luton, who finished 3rd. But in general, it seems to be the last 2 seasons have been 3rd v 4th in the final, haven't they? So there's an argument around that in itself. But again, that's probably an issue more of parachute payments are working these days rather than the playoff system itself. Me personally, but like I said, I think it's an interesting one because then you're talking about relegate. I mean, what was it like? What was it Scotland do, for example, a relegation promotion playoff thing? Like,
Yeah.
And I think if it's anything similar to that, like Annie said with Germany, I think it's the gap between the Prem and the Championship. If, say, for example, if you put Leeds or Burnley or Sunderland, for example, you put one of the promoted clubs, right? Wolves. We'll use them as an example. They're bottom at the minute. Imagine if you put Wolves against, I don't know, Preston, for example. Wolves should wipe the floor with Preston if it was like if that was a playoff format and if it worked like that. So again, each league has its own sort of circumstances, but yeah, it's like you both said, the gap between Premier League and certainly financially, the gap between Premier League and Championship was like it could have been like that at one point. Now it's literally growing and growing and growing, and the longer the Premier League's in its current format is probably only going to get bigger and bigger. So that's it, though, isn't it? I don't know. Personally, for me, I like the system as we've got right now. If anything needs to change for me, it's probably more how there's a financial gap between teams with parachute payments and without parachute payments. And to be clear,
ongoing discussion,
yeah, exactly. And I'm saying this as a fan of a club now who, if we go down, will have parachute payments next season. Like, for me, I never had a problem with other teams having... Say, for last season, for example, I never had a problem with Leeds, Burnley, Sheffield United having parachute payments because from their perspective, they've earned that right through being in the Premier League. But I believe there's a gap growing. And I think this kind of affects the playoffs in some sense because I think if you're a non-parachute team now, unless the parachute teams have a stinker of a season, your best bet of going up is winning the playoffs. So I wouldn't still be surprised even from here if 2 of the parachute teams finished in the top 2. But over a long season, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I think it's the state of football now these days is getting certainly peculiar and how it's going to be worked around, to put it that way. But like I said, I find it interesting, like from Manny's perspective, obviously as a club, and of course myself last season, where Bristol City and Sunderland didn't have parachute payments, we both finished in the playoffs. But it's also interesting how, obviously, again, if I've got this right. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here now. But I think the last few seasons, in fact, I looked at this, I think it was since the lockdown season, 2020, 2021. I could be right here, but I believe 9 of the last 10 automatically promoted teams have been parachute payment clubs. Ipswich being the only exception to that.
Yeah.
And that in itself means that if, say, so that's what my point really. So when you're looking at a playoff system, so you could argue, in some sense, well, if an extra 2 teams in the playoffs gives more non-parachute teams the chance to go up, but then there's at least 3 new parachute teams every year. So does that mean that the team who finishes third, and then in some cases fourth, if a non-parachute club has an excellent season, are still going to be third and fourth and likely to be the final?
Mm.
I don't know what my point
And-
was with all that, so I'll let Annie be more
Yeah.
succinct than me.
Just finally, Michael said about the if you're a non-parachute team, apart from the exception of Ipswich, who are brilliant, your best bet of promotion is via the playoffs. And the only example I can think of recent years is Southampton, who played Leeds, 2 parachute teams in the final. Apart from that, Brentford, Forest, Sunderland, obviously last season. So there've been quite a few.
Or you can put Huddersfield on that list as well.
I think he
Huddersfield,
means in the last 2
Luton.
years.
But yeah, but they definitely count Luton
yeah,
as
of
well,
course, yeah, absolutely.
and that was against Coventry in the final. So, in fact, no, there were no parachute teams in that season, were there? In the playoffs when Luton got in,
Was this the
No.
one with Luton, Middlesbrough, Coventry, and Sunderland?
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, that was
there
four
were no parachute
non-parachute
teams.
teams then. But that's a rarity
Yes.
now, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Becoming a rarity
How many
anyway.
who got promoted in the automatic places that season?
That was Burnley and Sheffield United,
Yeah.
2 parachute teams. Because Sheffield United, I think, were in year 2 and Burnley were in year 1.
One. Yes.
because Watford and Norwich absolutely tanked that season.
They
With
tanked
the
it
parachute
badly.
Yep.
Their 2 teams, they tanked so much. Yeah.
But the thing I
Yeah.
find interesting, though, is that if you look at the top 4 in the last 2 seasons, right? So 23-24, you had Leicester, Ipswich, Leeds, Southampton. 3 of them parachute payment teams, which, if anything, is a testament to how well Ipswich did in getting promoted automatically that year.
Yeah.
Then last season, you had Leeds, Burnley, Sheffield United, and Sunderland. Again, Sunderland, non-parachute club, but I think the slight difference with us, and this might be me saying it as a Sunderland fan, you two tell me if I'm talking rubbish here, but I think the difference is as well, even with a non-parachute payment club, we should have the attraction to attract top quality championship players. You know what I mean? Without trying
The
to...
difference with you is you're a massive club.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
and
that's
You
what
can
I'm
say
saying.
it. You can say it, Mike.
I'm trying to say this without sounding arrogant, basically.
No, but you have
Michael.
history. You have the history of the club, what you've done.
Yeah, go on.
Michael, you came up from League One. I remember the first signing I remember you making is Dan Ballard, and I think
Millwall's one of Millwall's best players the year before, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I think many, I don't know if Sunderland fans felt at the time, but I think many Sunderland fans are going, "Who's he? He's some Arsenal kid." I think most people who watch the Championship kind of looked at it and went, "Right, okay, yeah, welcome back, Sunderland. These guys are not a normal. These guys are not a normal."
I remember
League
when
One
we
team.
came up, and I think Wigan and Rotherham finished first and second in League One, and I'm just looking at it and going, and obviously on some level, my aspiration was to be better than Wigan and Rotherham at that point because I'd been in League One for 4 years. Well, I hadn't, but Sunderland had. You know what I mean? We'd been in League One for 4 years, so I didn't know what to expect. But obviously, it was obvious after about half a dozen games. Okay, we're probably not going to be in a relegation battle this season. We're probably going to be all right. But yeah, no, the point I'm trying to make is that yes, obviously Sunderland, I think we're a different case to a lot of Championship clubs. But but the point is, 3 of the top 4 in the last 2 seasons that have been comfortably ahead of everyone else have been parachute payment clubs. Obviously, you had Luton as the obvious exception to that, but that's an anomaly rather than the rule. That's the exception more so than the rule. Even if you look at 20 to 23, I can't use an example, can I? Because, okay, the top 2 were comfortably clear of everyone else, Burnley and Sheffield United, parachute payment clubs. The point I'm making is there's a big financial gap.
Luton, sorry. When Luton Luton when they got promoted, they never really looked in top 2 contention in that season.
There never was. They were more just
really.
Yeah.
They were sort of fifth and fourth, and then they sort of had a little run towards the end that got into third. Sorry.
No, they were. I know what you mean. They were pretty much in the playoffs all year, but not like. If anything, that year it was Middlesbrough who were pushing for the automatics as they beat Sheffield United at one point, and it looked like they could really challenge them. But like, obviously, that's kind of how it's. The point I'm making is that if you're looking at, unless you recruit, well, to be fair, like look at us again. Last season, I think our recruitment in general was excellent, where we stayed in the conversation for top 2 until I think it was the back end, probably after the Leeds game when we lost in stoppage time. If not then, it would have definitely been the week afterwards when we lost to Hull with Sheffield United losing to Leeds on the Monday night. So we stayed in that conversation then. But the point is that it's very hard now for non-parachute clubs, I think, to start really mounting promotion challenges, and I'm talking like really top 2 level consistently. So there is arguments for how the new playoff system is going to work, but it would work if it's introduced. But do you guys think it'll change? I think it stays as it is personally.
I I think so. At this moment, I cannot see them expanding the playoffs. I don't forget. At this moment, I think it will stay as it is, and it will be probably for the next few years. Because everything, if you try to make a change, there's going to be a lot of people against it. And then the problem is when as a football league in England, we don't like the changes. We always stuck to the traditions, and that is the issue that you're going to have. So I can't see it changing unless there's a frigging revolution where it's going to be rapid. For example, the EFL at some point will go to the National League, say, "Can we just buy you again and make an extra league to make to help you guys more further?"
League
Or
3.
EFL, exactly,
EFL League 3, Sky Bet League 3. But that sounds shit, doesn't it?
And
but
even exactly.
The point I make, the only way I could see it possibly changing is if the EFL went to the clubs in the Championship and asked for them to vote their opinion on it. But then the issue you're going to get there is people are obviously just, and fairly so, people are going to vote in what's best interest for their club, aren't they?
Yeah.
You're probably going to get 20 yeses and 4 nos, and I wonder
where the 4 nos will come from.
Yeah, I agree with the I'll definitely agree with the self-interest bit. It's all about the self-interest, all about the money.
Which I understand, by the way.
But we have also said that if you finish recently the Championship, if you're probably only going to get promoted if you finish in the top 4, and that's been the sort of recent historical
right now. Bristol City
trend.
Go up.
But that's been the sort of recent historical trend where you finish in the top 4. Yeah, okay, you finish in the playoffs if you get 5th or 6th, but you don't really stand a chance over 2 legs against 3rd and 4th.
No.
That's what. There's been a couple of exceptions, but that's been what recent.
But if you look at the playoffs, what was it 2 years ago? Look at when Leeds and Southampton were in there, and they had Norwich and West Brom as their opponents, respectively.
Yeah.
Look how it was tight in the first leg for both of them, and then Leeds and Southampton dismantled both of them in the second leg.
And what I was going to say was, if you're Ipswich, for example, and you're in a top 2 racehorse season, and you fall off a little bit, and you finish 3rd, you get a bye anyway. You get a bye to the semi-finals, the proper playoffs anyway. And if you're fortunate, if you're 3rd or 4th, you could be playing 7th and 8th instead of 5th and 6th. So you can actually be doing yourselves a favour if you miss out on the playoffs. If you really tank it and finish 5th and 6th in the playoffs, well, you should be better than 7th and 8th anyway, even if because you're at home and because you've got a better squad. So I can see, some level of self-interest, but I could also see the other argument with the parachute teams, where if they finish in the top 4, they're fine and could get even luckier than playing 5th and 6th. But I could also see an argument where they play 7th and 8th, and you're going, right, no problems. We can beat them. We can beat them at home over a leg, one-off game.
And bear in mind as well, if you finish 3rd or 4th in that situation, because it's likely it's going to be at least one parachute team in 3rd and 4th there, maybe even 2, depending on how clubs do the previous season. So it could be that they have an even bigger points gap and taking more points off teams that are in 7th and 8th, and then it means the quality difference is even bigger, which again raises another point about non-parachute clubs, but I'll not get into that rabbit hole again.
It was 24 points between us and Sheffield United, I think. 24.
It was
last season.
Yeah.
And that's 6th and 3rd. So I don't know.
It's good. Do you know what? Especially now, if it ever's going to be you see what's going on in Scotland at the moment, guys. They've been trying to do a league reorganization for years, and to quite honest with you, there's been teams against it. Some people it just never. They don't know what the format wants to be. They've been trying to get up to 16, up to 16 to 18. It's just been going back and forth. For us, because in Scotland, because there's only 2 entities between the SPFL and the Highland and Lowland leagues, where in England you've got the Premier League, EFL, and the National League, so you have to deal with more entities than ever before. So I think this is going to be an issue that's going to be continuing for the long run, because it's like I said, at some point, if the Premier League have to buy the EFL champions to make a Premier League 2, that could resolve some situations, but
financially, the Championship's becoming a Premier League 2 when you see some of the fees being bandied about in the second.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so you might as well,
Look at Sheffield United as a case study. Tom Cannon, 13 million quid. Jaffa Tanganga, no problem, 10 million quid.
Finn Aziz was what, 15?
Finn Aziz for Southampton. Tom Fellows, you know. So you're talking about, what was it? Was it Ipswich who spent? Was it like 17 million quid or something on one player? This year?
20 million quid on someone who's never played in the Championship before.
Yeah, which is a record. Am I right in thinking that's a record for a Championship club to spend on one player? Yeah, so there you go. Again, parachute payments, but there you go.
How are we meant to compete with this? As I say as I play my violin.
As Annie says that, how are we meant to compete with this? I know it's Bristol City finishing ahead of every single parachute club and then going up at Wembley. Or second. One of the two.
That'd be quite nice, wouldn't it? That'd be all right.
Well, fair, absolutely. Gentlemen, thank you very much, as it has been. It's good to see you guys back after the international break, and we'll be back next Sunday at the same time at 8 p.m. as well here in the Total Leave It.
Question is, are we going to have a drunk ant? Are we going to have a drunk ant here?
Probably, yes.
Are we going to have an ant
on the result between 12:30 and 2:30 next Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are we going to have ant at all? Full stop.
Yeah. Are we going to have ant going? Oh, I didn't care about Coventry anyway. Or ha, you tin pot bastard.
It depends with me next week because I'm going to be out next Sunday. So one of you are going to have to take the reins while dealing with ant on here. So
I think me and Annie will be more than up for that. To be fair.
Yeah. It depends if that because I'm out with my partner next Sunday.
Depends if we win the Liam Manning derby or not.
Oh yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, I forgot about you because when you lose, you don't come on. Yeah, that's always been typical of you. It's always been that.
See, at least every time Sunderland, even when we lose, I still came on. So I'm proud.
So did I. All right, maybe by one time last season, that was different circumstances.
Yeah, but you didn't lose many games. To be fair, did you? We lost like 5 in a row at the end of the season.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Not that I could complain.
We've not lost a game so far, and I think I've
so far. Yeah, don't jinx that up. Yeah, so
I will defend Danny here. To be fair, the one time I remember him not being on was when Bristol City won 4-1 at Sheffield United at the start of the season.
Yes.
So he missed the golden opportunity to talk waxadaisical about how mint Bristol City were taking apart a parachute team away from home.
I'd still moaned and groaned, to be honest. But
you did. Oh, yeah, even though it was your birthday that weekend as well.
But remember, Carlos, Andy having a life isn't good enough, though. He needs to prioritize.
He's now going to deal with uni life, which is going to be basically going to be yeah.
Oh yeah. The couple of Sundays from now on, the next time, this time after you see me, I will be in my uni dorm. So prepare for it.
That's going to be interesting with the broadband situation. Then we're like,
yep.
Hey, pay extra for ultra fast if they give you a cheap ass one. Just pay for ultra fast, right? That's why I did my first year at uni, and I think I needed to do that after they gave me a 10, 20 megabyte. I was like, no.
Right.
That's my tip to tell you that one. Yeah.
And his brilliant life for uni can start by going to Walsall versus Bristol Rovers in League 2. Not that I wish it on him from Walsall.
I'm planning on. I had a look because. Well, I'll tell you about this actually after we finish going live.
Yeah. Fair play to everyone who's still watching, by the way.
There's only one person.
Yeah, how?
Well, fair play to whoever this player. Maybe it's Ant being drunk. I don't know, but
no, I will be in bed by now. Come on,
right, probably. Yeah, true.
Whoever this person is, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done.
I'm hopeful it's not my partner because she sometimes does watch it in the living room, but I think she's gone to bed already, so I could. Yeah. Hi, if you
hello, hello, how are you doing? Just ignore
yeah, absolutely. But I am back on tomorrow night with Doug and Rich Sports and Dan from Turf Moorhouse TV tomorrow at 7 p.m. here on the Total Leave It Home Football Podcast and also the Dugout Football channel as well to talk about all the Premier League games this weekend, and especially I have to talk about Leeds, because can't believe we scored in the wrong end. It was a good header, I'm not going to lie, but in the wrong place.
You can vent about it off camera. I'm sure you'll have a good lot to say.
I already did. Well, yeah. It's going to be a lot moaning tomorrow, let me tell you that one.
Aye, fair enough.
Right, thank you very much, everyone. I'll see you guys next week. Take care for now. Bye-bye.